And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Echo down to nominal.
Flighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
Clear, correct?
Thanks. We don't need any more of these.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Flight 7's coverage of Starship's latest attempt to push the boundaries, shall we say, of what is the world's largest rocket, and eventually will be developing a system that will create a city on Mars. I literally just came off the top of my head. I'd written no pre-intro for this. I just thought that is what this rocket is, and I think that view says it all. Although the weather is awful, let's face it, that is quite an impressive view. It does look like something from a sci-fi movie. So yes, welcome to the coverage. We're not too entirely sure if this one will launch today, but whenever I think a rocket isn't going to launch, such as a Falcon 9, they go on launch. So let's all be very much prepared for the potential 7th flight of Starship. But luckily, it's not just me talking on this Stakeout stream to start with. We're also joined by EJ. Hello, EJ.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Tired?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm there with you.
Luckily, we've also got Alex. Hello, Alex.
Oh boy, I'm also kind of tired too.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of an early day today. Very, lots of action. But yeah, I mean, it's another Starship launch. How would I miss this, right? Like, there's no way.
Well, apparently we missed the Blue Origin launch, according to Bill Nelson. Hey, let's get that one out of the way. The intern has since deleted that ex-post about New Glenn launching. So,
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was a very hilarious start to the day. People wondering, well, Chris, it's midday UK and it's 1 p.m. in Spain. How are they tired? The fun thing is, we're in an era of rockets launching left, right, and centre, and we had the Blue Ghost, not Blue Origin, Blue Ghost launch this morning in the early hours. So that is where we're now looking forward to potentially Blue Origin launching after this one, if this one launches on time, of course. But we're all looking forward to the main star of the show, which is Starship. Starship has become the rock star of rockets lately because of the capability and because I think it's a beautiful rocket. EJ, we've been following rockets for a while now, and I'll bring Alex in as well. But EJ, this is such an impressive looking rocket, isn't it? Let's take away the capability and let's just go on the aesthetics. This is a beautiful rocket.
It's definitely a looker, Chris. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm actually down at, in South Texas, and I got to see this thing up close yesterday. It is a sight to be seen. That camera shot that you guys see does not do it justice. It is amazing. And that's basically my view right now. Can't really see it. Can't see it from where I am, but I did get out in the field and I did get to see it. It is a looker. I didn't think I would like the Block 2 Starship with like the offset flaps, but no, it looks pretty neat. It looks pretty good. Pretty nice looking machine.
I've got to do a quick thanks before I go to Alex. A quick thanks because Mike Alpha Tango Sierra, otherwise known as Mats has got a command in chat. Hats off to Mats, because Mats is always doing this. Gifted 50 Red Team memberships to start the stream off. 50 people have got access to the membership program just for a month for free. And just straight off the top of the bat, I mean, that is amazing. Thank you so much, Mats. That is incredible. Alex, I want to bring you in on this one. The Traveller asks, what's the probability of launch today?
Oh, that's why you were wanting to throw that at me.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, unfortunately, we just don't know, right? We usually. So I'm gonna go through the formal, very. I don't know how to even call this type of answer, but for launches from the Cape, for example, we have the probability of violation weather forecast, right, from the 45th Weather Squadron. Unfortunately, this is a private spaceport, right? Starbase is not a federally controlled spaceport or anything like it. It's SpaceX's spaceport, which means all of the weather stuff that's for them to publicize and talk about whenever they want. And so they don't say it's X amount of percent of probability of violation or probability of good conditions or whatever. So unfortunately, in that realm of things for the weather and things like that we usually talk about for Cape launches, for Starbase, that is always, yeah, it's iffy, cloudy, whatever, but few clouds. It's not like it has ever stopped any of the SpaceX rockets, neither Falcon 9 nor Starship. We all remember SN11. Even though we kind of don't want to remember it. But yeah, so the probability of launch today, I mean, there's a few clouds, might launch. I don't know. Yeah.
You know what, Alex? I mean, we were mentioning this yesterday in Starbase Live. SN11 was interesting because I remember that one so well. Everyone was saying there is no way they're going to launch this vehicle. It was only a hop, remember. It was not a proper launch. It was just a ship when they were doing the test flights and the belly flops. We all thought there's no way they're going to launch in this weather. And they launched it in that weather, and then it rutted on the way back down in that weather. To the point that all we saw were bits of dead Starship falling by our cameras and Tim's camera. And it's like, we were thinking, please avoid the debris, cameras. It was incredible, really. But that gives you an indication. I've always thought this, and I'll bring EJ on this one. Rockets have weather constraints. And we always joke about Soyuz. Soyuz would launch in any weather. Soyuz does not care about the weather. It will still launch. We are looking at a rapidly reusable rocket. You'd think they'd design it to avoid certain weather constraints that other rockets may scrub or not launch in. Do you think maybe that this might be tested in those kind of conditions, shall we say, where they prove that Starship has more flexibility in weather conditions?
I'm not sure if this is the right time to prove that, Chris. I mean, but then again, what do I know? I'm sitting in the booth, Yeah, maybe. I don't see why they couldn't, but if they're looking for a test with this Block 2, the Block 2 ship, you might want to wait for some nice visual conditions so you can, actually physically see that thing perform, right? Because we know that, hey, guess what? Guess what I'm going to talk about? We're talking about the shuttle. We're going to talk about the shuttle here for a second. We're going to do it. It was, right? Imaging the shuttle on the way up was a huge deal. They needed to image the shuttle. NASA needed to image that thing going on the way up, because as much as we don't like admitting it, every single shuttle mission was basically a test flight. So you might, if you wanted to prove that now, I'm pretty sure it could. But you have this new ship. Maybe don't do that with a brand new Block 2 ship. I don't know. It's kind of you never know with SpaceX, right? Because it's like Alex was saying, it's a private spaceport. We really can't get our finger on the pulse here. It's kind of hard to say.
No, I think that's a good answer, AJ, because I did get slightly fixated. I think we all got slightly fixated in the latest Raptor side, which was yesterday, about the weather conditions, and suddenly that became almost an objective of the flight, to fly in bad weather. But it isn't the objective of this flight. In fact, Alex, maybe you could tell us all what the main key objectives of Flight 7 is, such as the Block 2 debut of the ship, and also what they may go for, like a booster couch and things like that, but also the dumb links, if I can bring you in. I know you like that one, Alex, the dumb links. So maybe you could just talk about the parameters of what this test flight is really about.
I have so many words about this, right? Because there's so many things going on this flight. Just for the sake of trying to shorten this answer, it's a new type of ship. It's a next generation version of the ship. Block 2. It's longer, has a lot more propellant on it, bunch of upgrades. Like, it's essentially a rewrite of the ship design. And so that's going to be flying today. It also has a bunch of catch hardware for future flights. Just essentially trying to go through re-entry with those, making sure that they can survive the re-entry portion of the flight, so that in the future, hopefully maybe next flight, they may go back to Starbase and catch a ship with the launch tower chopsticks. Now, as for I'm gonna leave the ship for later again, but as you mentioned, the booster is doing potentially, hopefully, knock on wood, a return to launch site. It's gonna attempt that, but as we saw on Flight 6, if things do not seem to look good, right, the booster may divert offshore. The booster is still a version 1, a sort of original kind of brand of this booster version. And so it still doesn't have all of the upgrades that we're looking forward in the next version of the booster and everything like that, but still has a few upgrades here and there, so that's good. And so going back to the profile for the ship, as you mentioned, there's going to be 10 simulators, 10 Starlink simulators, or dumblinks, I guess. Star Sims, I guess, will be the more, I don't know, the better wording for that. And so they are going to be deployed about 17 minutes into flight, so about 8 minutes or so after they shut down the engines. Then they're going to deploy those 10 Starlink simulators. They're going to be in the same suborbital trajectory, so Starship is not going into orbit today, but it's going to go all the way to the Indian Ocean. Those simulators will just be also re-entering over the Indian Ocean and burn up on re-entry. For the ship, of course, it will not burn up on re-entry, or so we hope, because it has a heat shield. There's a bunch of upgrades as well for the heat shield. They're going to be tested on that re-entry. Before that re-entry, though, there's going to be a relight test of one of the Raptor engines, just like we saw on Flight 6, and hopefully it'll be as successful as we saw on Flight 6. And those things will allow them to be able to test, in the future, they'll be able to deorbit the ship, or move it to a different orbit. Like, say, for example, you move into first an elliptical orbit, and then you do another quick burn to circularize, just like they do for Starlink. There's a lot of things going on, but that's essentially the main thing. And of course, as we saw in Flight 6, after the re-entry ends, the landing burn of the ship will happen in daylight, so that's going to be another, exciting views moment. And hopefully, we also get to see some kind of view of that heat shield, like what happens after that entry through the atmosphere at orbital velocity. So definitely lots of things. I could go more in depth, but that's why you can ask at NASASpaceflight in chat and say, Alex, explain X or whatever. I don't know, questions. You can throw us those kind of things to us.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is, in fact, during my hour of commentary at the start, I'm going to publish Ryan Webber's article as well, which will also help, and I'll pin that in chat so people can have a little read-through if they want to get more information on particular elements of what they may be interested in. But always ask. You can ask in chat by doing NASASpaceflight, followed by your question. We will get a lot of questions, so we won't be able to answer every single one of them, but we'll answer as many as possible. I want to quickly thank Ali. Ali's done this many times before, but Ali has gifted 200 gifted Red Team memberships with the maximum 50 4 times. So I'm gonna spread these out, Ali, so you don't look like you've only done 50. I'm gonna do one now where it goes into the thing and shows up. That's bonkers support. It's not the first time you've done it, and it's very much appreciated. It really is. I want to also thank everybody. By the way, I will thank every single one of you who do any support, but I will also thank all of you who don't, because all of you as a collective make this work. You could be your first time here, you could be just popping in and saying hello. The fact that you're watching our stream is support. You know how it works on YouTube. It's more people, more better. So you're all very much appreciated. Don't ever think we're just focusing on super chats. In fact, if you could see the panel I've got in front of me where we do that NASASpaceflight, all the questions come in, regardless if it's super chat or not. So we get every single question, we can answer them as we can. And we've always been like that, but if you're new to this place and you're probably used to YouTube where they only read out super chats, no, we read everyone's question out if it's a good question. Simple as that. Right, Zachary, back for Flight 7. Let's see you launch today. Thank you. You got something from the store. Nice one. Chaos Forever. Just saying awesome channel with the super chat. Thank you very much for that. Accuracy became a Capcom member. Jack, Oliver, I can support. I will support. No thanks needed. Well, you're going to get thanks, Jack. So there you go. You're getting thanks. Peter became a Padrat member. Thank you for joining. I'm going to put the other one of Ali in there because Ali's done 4 of these, which is already trying to break me on this stream. But very much appreciated. Sodium X became a gifted Red Team membership. Thank you. And I'm going to go back to Ali. I'll keep putting you in because you've done 4 of these. I don't want to make it look like you've just won. You've done 4 of these, so I'm making sure I'm going to spread them out, if that makes sense. I do have a question that sounds very EJ-ish. I don't know if it's fair or not because you might not know it, but I'm going to ask it anyway, EJ. Eddie asks, how does the heat flux change around the nose on the new fins?
So heat flux. So we're talking about the heat that gets transferred into the tiles. Is that what we're getting at? What...
Potentially the during entry interface where we see the plasma buildup. I would say, yeah,
of course. So okay, I'm not Eddie. I think I understand what you're saying, but here let me take a stab at it. It's a little bit early. Hang on. Let me take a sip of my energy beverage here. Okay, we're good. Okay, so they moved the flaps on these Block 2 starships. They clocked them a little bit further towards the leeward side of Starship. So that's the side without tiles. They're further up towards the stainless steel side in a little bit further away from the windward side. So windward side for the uninitiated, windward side is the side that gets really hot. The leeward side is not. So moving them up, right, it takes them out. It takes them away from basically what's called a shock, a plasma shock. So when you're going through entry, we've seen it, Chris, on past Starship missions because of the Starlinks and how SpaceX is able to get a signal. We could see the plasma move around. Now, if you guys picture that in your mind, you see kind of a stream of. Looks like a stream of fire coming off the side of the ship, right, and getting shot out to the sides. That's plasma. It's ionized. It's ionized gases in the upper atmosphere that get compressed so hard that they heat up that they actually ionize. They split. Well, split, quote unquote. That's a loose way of saying it, right? So what happens is that you get a shock when that happens, and it's kind of like. Sir Peter Beck has described it as a plasma knife, and that's a good way to say it, right? So moving those flaps up out of the way, right, and moving them more towards the leeward side of the ship moves them further away from that shock, so you don't get that burn through that they were encountering on those early flights. If we cast our minds back to which one was it? I think it was these. I mean, these things have happened so fast, I don't even remember which one was which. They had one and they had some serious burn through the front flaps, and it looked like someone took a bite out of the flap, like a cookie or something, but it still landed, which was really cool. So, like you could say like, oh, how's the heat flux different? Well, they did redesign the tiles, but the big thing with that Block 2 ship is that those flaps are moved up. They're moved up towards the leeward side, and that's going to keep them further away from the shock so they don't get burned through like what we've seen on past flights. That's the big difference. Eddie, I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for, but I think that covers it more or less, Chris.
Very good. Very much appreciated. You know what, Alex, I want to do? Because I think if I was just joining this stream right now, I'd be looking, well, it looks a bit dodgy weather out there, but also what are we expecting to come up? Because this rocket is interesting in the fact that it can fuel it in 45 minutes. So what do you think will be happening as milestones earlier in the day? Why are we live on a Stakeout stream this early? There'll be lots of things such as potentially road closures and things like that, just preparing the whole area ahead of this launch. What is the next milestones coming up for this test flight?
Yeah, the next milestone should be in a few hours from now when the road is closed. The road closure for today's window opens at 9 a.m. So at 9 a.m., we expect that road to be closed, essentially. But as usual, as it happens for launches, things like sweeps of the beach and the launch sites and the road and everything, it's very likely that it's already happening right now because they want to get things done very quickly and very early. And so while it is true that they cannot technically close the road until 9 a.m., usually they make sure that all of those things are taken care of, because otherwise, they really don't get anything else done in terms of clearing the beach and the launch site and everything. And so that's one of the things that we should be looking out for the next few hours at 9 a.m. That'll be, if I'm not mistaken, that'll be, I'm doing the math right now because the launch window opens at 4 p.m. So that will be 7 hours before the opening of the window. So in about 2.5 hours from now. And so with that, we should see all of that happening, that clearing of the launch site, the beach and everything. One other thing that we usually see as well is the start of the evacuation, both of the village and also of the production site. So workers do not go in on their morning shift and things like that. And so those kinds of things will start happening if everything is still go for that launch, of course.
Very good. So we keep close on it. I think we're going to get sunrise before too long as well, which will help our views again with the foggy conditions. I think that will make things interesting, but also I will note that we have many cameras. We were setting quite a few up in EJ, you're out there with the team. We have a lot of cameras with close-up views, which will aid our coverage coming through the day, especially when the sun rises. I mean, you saw them setting up the cameras yesterday and during the in Danger Lot. Is it AJ Danger Lot still?
It is Danger Lot, yeah. I was there. I saw him do it. That was a lot of work involved there, Chris.
So when people come on the stream and go, oh, they're rotating through these 3 or 4 views right now of the ship. No, we're going to have a multitude of views as well. And I do believe our members will have a multi-stream, which I may be able to put on soon because I've probably forgotten to do that already, but it'll be actually live. It's a community post that I always add on as well. I've got a programming note as well from Robert Simons who asks, how are you handling covering Starship and a potential New Glenn launch in the next 24 hours? We can do it because we have such an amazing team. We have a big team out in Starbase for Flight 7, but we've also got our Cape side KSC folk, Dee, Max, Julia, all out there, and Sawyer out on the East Coast, so we can cover New Glenn as well with their own cameras. It really is an impressive thing to have such a great team where, we're not having to rely on just watching an official webcast and talking over it with a face cam. We have literally got our team out there with our cameras and commentating, watching the rocket in real life. I mean, that you can't really put a price on that. It really is incredible. And it's thanks to your support, by the way. Your support allows us to do this because it's not cheap from a hardware and from a human standpoint. So thank you all for doing that. Also, we've got a question here, which I think would be more related to an EJ question, because I want to bring Shuttle back again, EJ. Supersonic reactor propulsion.
Yes.
Has SpaceX ever made any mention of Starship's potential downmass? Now, we'll discuss the potential of what we think Starship can do, but let's not forget that one of the spatial orbiters, bows in its arrows, was the fact that it could actually bring mass back down again, not just from the ISS, such as down mass from the ISS, but also retrieving satellites, because that was its capability of being able to bring back payloads inside its cargo bay back to the shuttle landing facility, wasn't it?
Yep. Oh yeah, the shuttle had the down mass capability. I mean, it's been a while. I'm pretty sure it was about 12 metric tons. It could take 25 up, 12 down. It is an amazing machine. I still love that thing. But, I mean, with Starship, I don't see, like Chris, the reason why the shuttle could bring up 25 and down 12 is because they had to balance that payload inside of the shuttle because the shuttle lands on a runway. You're still subject to flight characteristics here because it has to, I was about to say it has to land like an airplane, but we all know that that's not what that does. It kind of, gets near the runway and then touches its wheels down and, like nosedives at the runway. And then maybe, maybe you call it a landing. I don't know. You guys, what do you guys want to call it? But that's the reason why it could only bring down 12 tons, because they had to balance it. Now you could use the body flap on the shuttle at the very. It's at the very back. It looks like it shields the engines during re-entry. You could use the flap to kind of trim it out, but it's still shuttle could only take down 12 tons of down mass because it has to still quote unquote fly like an airplane. Starship, with the flaps, you can move your center of pressure around. You can change it a lot. It's you get a lot more control. I personally think that Starship, I don't think, SpaceX says that they want Starship to bring like 100 tons up into space, and that is awesome. I really like that. That's really cool. But at the end of the day, you're still beholden to the tyranny of the rocket equation here. So I'm not sure that, with refueling, who knows? But I'm not sure if this thing's going to be able to come down with 100 tons, but I would love to be proven wrong by SpaceX on this one. That would be really, really cool. But I really don't see like a limitation here, right? Like whatever, I'm pretty sure the way they're designing it is whatever you can fit in that bay, you should be able to bring up or take down. But that's if I'm looking at it correctly. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm only fascinated by the fact that I once asked, with that assumption that Starship would be able to retrieve payloads, was asking Elon, could they save Hubble? Because we know that there's a lot of pushback on the potential resurfacing of Hubble or orbital boost of Hubble to extend its lifetime. So the potential is now that Hubble is on its last days, last years, we're more accurate. Mm-hmm. And I was like, just in one of my reply to Elon phases, which I don't do too much these days, could Hubble be brought back by Starship? And he replied with a very informative answer, saying yes. So, taking that into account, Alex, what do you think Starship could be used for viably? Are we talking about Hubble? Are we talking about something else that I'm maybe not thinking about, where it brings down mass back with it?
It's funny when we mention these things, I sort of envision it more easier to lend things like down mass kind of thing. Like when people talk about, let's bring back Hubble to the Earth, and it's like, why don't we put it on a moon base? Land it on the moon and put it on like on a moon museum kind of thing, right? It will be cool, right? But also you can kind of avoid the whole, belly flop style kind of landing. I don't know, like it's always being a bit iffy to me, the whole thing of belly flopping, returning payloads. Obviously they'll figure that out, especially with humans. But at least with humans, you can sort of like maybe have a sort of like a chair in some kind of gimbal, right? That definitely helps. But I don't know if with cargo you can really do anything like that. So yeah, there's lots of potential. You will just need a very complicated way of securing your payloads, because again, changing of orientations and everything during flight with Starship. But definitely doable. Yeah, why not? Let's bring things from space. But again, I'm also proposing, like, let's put things on the moon. Like put Hubble on a moon museum or something. Why not?
Right, Alex, that's it. You've started me off. We're gonna have a moon museum. That's what we need. It's the first time I've ever heard anybody make a reference to a moon museum, and now I want one. So, Alex, I'm gonna set up Nightbot commands for Moon Museum because we're gonna start a campaign off now. Yeah, and before you know it, Elon will see it maybe in chat and decide it's his idea and tweet it out, and everyone will be like, "It's a great idea, Elon. Moon Museum. That's what we need. That's going to be the solution to everything." I did see a question come in because I'm reading live chat as well. I'm notorious for reading live chat just like everybody else, about things that Starship could potentially bring down. And I'm going to disagree with this one. I'm going to need EJ's backup on this one.
Uh-oh.
Could SpaceX save the ISS? Like, I don't know, a museum or something? I'm thinking no, because the ISS is huge and it's made out of modules that were interlinked during the space shuttle assembly phase of the space station. I can't see a way of saving the ISS. Maybe a module like Cupola, would they really find a need to save Cupola? Is it that big a deal? EJ, I'm not thinking the ISS can be saved or brought back down, shall we say.
It really depends on the module, huh, Chris? Like, you're not... Okay, so you go cast your mind back, and everybody in the chat, cast your mind back to STS-88. I mean, STS-88 is a shuttle mission where they joined Node 1, Unity, on the space station with PMA-1. Well, it had PMA-1 on it, and they joined it with Zarya, right? That was not a reversible process doing that. Those Unity and Zarya are basically conjoined at the hip. That is, you're not taking those things apart. They're designed to fit together. It's like they're designed to fit. They were designed to fit together like Legos, and then they super glued it. It's not coming apart. Now, taking modules down, certain modules, sure. I mean, the USOS side of that space station is reconfigurable. We've seen it. We saw it get reconfigured many times during assembly, Chris, right? Like they took the truss segment, and the truss segment was mounted on top of the S0 truss segment or one of the solar panels, and then they moved it. You know, when they installed the other solar panel, it was on the top of the space station. Now it's on the side because they put the other solar panel on, right? There are pieces you could get. Personally, I think it would be good data to, you know, for NASA to maybe bring down a module that's been up there for a long time. Now, once again, the modules that have been up there the longest, you're probably not going to get those back. And I think the Russians would have something to say about it if you brought Zvezda or Pirs or Poisk or Nauka back. They'd be like, hey, you know, those are ours. Should probably not do that. But the USOS side of the station, you could get at Columbus or Kibo or Node 2. I don't see why not. Those are reconfigurable. It's just the ones that are kind of its destiny is attached to which is the US lab module. That's attached to the truss segment. You're not really moving that. And Node 1 has the Z1 the Z1 module on top of it, which is the control moment gyro module for the ISS. And that's all kind of conjoined they're bolted together at the hip with Zarya. That you're not gonna reconfigure that. So I agree, you're probably not getting the whole thing back, but it would be cool to have one of those modules back down.
Yeah, it would. I'm thinking, is there really demand for it? I'm thinking Hubble might be, because there might be a museum that'd pay for it, and that may become viable. And obviously, Hubble is such a iconic piece of space hardware. Is that even right to say piece of? It's historic. I mean, Hubble is amazing, and Hubble's got the public imagination. A module of the ISS, maybe not. I don't think so. So I'm thinking the ISS is going to come down. It's going to get deorbited, and just as they plan to do, unfortunately, it would be very sad. But it was always going to happen one day. That was the thing. They can't send it to the moon. They can't shove it into a massive orbit. It doesn't work that way for the ISS. Anyway.
Now, hold on 1 second. I just want to say one more thing real quick.
Go for it.
I personally think that having Hubble and an ISS module would look very nice next to Discovery at the Smithsonian Museum. It would look very nice, you know, just right next to the shuttle. I'm just putting it out there. Like, I like Alex's idea of a moon museum. That's a good call. But having Hubble next to the shuttle, next to an ISS module kind of hanging from the ceiling at the Udvar Hazy Center in Virginia would not be the stupidest idea. That'd be pretty cool.
Quiz question: which booster is this coming back to Port Canaveral? Quiz question. I know the answer now, thanks to Neil, Peter, and Alex in the back room. But I'm going to let chat have a go. Chat. It's a quiz. It's an early quiz. There's no prize, but there's an early quiz. Which booster is this returning live on our Space Coast live cameras to Port Canaveral? It's a Falcon 9 booster. Obviously, we are covering Starship, but hey, look, come on, it's SpaceX. Oh, waiting for the correct answer. Oh, we're still waiting for a correct answer. Keep going. It's not that one, unless Alex and Peter are both wrong, which is never going to happen. I'm waiting to see if chat has got the correct answer yet. Nope, still not the correct one.
I mean, a lot of people are saying 67. We could see 67 if we go to Fleet Cam, but it's not 67.
We've got a winner.
Ooh.
Kaney, Ko, Booster 1080. You're the winner. Ding, ding, ding. We need like a quiz show, sort of like correct answer soundboard. Kevin Michael Reed was on right now. He'd be hitting the soundboard, I guarantee you. But anyway, thank you. That is a live view, so we'll just interchange with that on the coverage there, just to show you. While the weather is looking decidedly better in Florida, which is kind of funny because usually Florida has got very interchangeable weather. And even Vandenberg yesterday was quite bright and sunny. It's a Starbase that's gone foggy just for this week, which is kind of weird, but there we go. I want to thank some more people, by the way, quickly, before we go back to questions. Ariana gifted a Red Team membership. Shaz Bert Are we going to get Captain Jack in a kilt on a kayak? No. Jack doesn't like the kilt, the references. Mark Hudson became a Capcom member, as did Ronald, which means you get access to our Discord, by the way, at that level, and our Discord is amazing. Troy Scott became Padrap member. Finder, February ship catch, March orbit refuel, and Tower 2. HLS, here we go, you get a timeline here from Finder. Starship September is the best scenario. It's itinerary. Right, okay, let's put this in so we can actually read this, because it was kind of convoluted in the way it was put onto the panel there. There we go, here we go. Feb ship catch. So that's Flight 8 in February. That's potentially true. Mars orbit refuel with Tower 2. March, I would assume that is. Potentially. HLS Starship September. Alex, what do you think we're going to see this year, 2025? Probably an easier way of doing this.
I'm not sure about Tower 2 being online on March. And also they don't need, so this is a neat thing that I think maybe has not it has not made as mainstream as other things. They don't need the second tower for the refueling demonstration. So this was one of the things that we have known since at least April of last year, where one of the NASA officials talked about the timeline between the two launches for the refueling demonstration. It's going to be about 3 weeks in between. So in theory, they could do just that with Pad A. So they only need, at the very least, one launch pad that can be turned around in 3 weeks. So that's more or less what they're looking for the propellant demonstration. And hey, we had a very close and quick turnaround time, remember, between Flight 5 and 6. So in theory, that could probably be doable with just one tower. Now, as for Starship in September, going to the moon, I'm not so sure about that either. I'm not even sure whether SpaceX is targeting 2025 anymore. The crewed landing moved to 2027, remember, with Artemis 3. And so the uncrewed one is very likely that it has already moved to 2026 as well. And as for the timelines as well, I think we heard like summer for the propellant demonstration, the transfer demonstration. So that's more or less what we've heard officially, right? I'd be very, very, I don't know. It'd be very weird if they decided to suddenly move things to the left. We need to see ships with all of the hardware needed for the refueling and everything, the docking systems, for example, and things like that. I think it's more likely that we see. So I will agree that perhaps February might be the ship catch on Flight 8. That could be a thing, right? We might see Starlink flights first. So this mission, Flight 7, is deploying 10 simulators, 10 Starlink simulators. If they deploy simulators, why not deploy the real thing on the next flight, right? Or maybe in Flight 9 or Flight 10. Once you start going into proper orbit, then you can do all the things, like, for example, staying in orbit with the ship instead of just a few flights around the Earth, just staying up there for a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, right? And testing the endurance of the ship up there and being able to demonstrate that it can stay in orbit for long periods of time, because in the future, it needs to be up there in space for a long, long time. Remember, long future ahead for Starship is going to Mars, and Mars takes months to get there, and even then you have to come back to Earth, right, from Mars, and so you need to refuel there, you need to lift off and everything, so that's going to take years until you come back to Earth. So Starship needs to be able to do all of that just as well. And so, but first step is being able to make sure that it can last a few days, then weeks and everything. I think we're going to see something like that. They'll deploy Starlinks, keep the ship in orbit, and see how it does for a few days, for a few weeks, try new things, and maybe as well have some kind of Gemini 6 and 7 kind of mission. EJ, maybe you can correct me here because I don't remember exactly the numbers. But
no, you're right.
That Gemini mission where they went up, they did not dock together, but they went very close to each other. That could be a precursor. Like I'm this is not official, of course. I'm just like running off my brain here. What I'm thinking might be the things that we see in the lead up to that summer propellant demonstration mission. There's many missions that can be done in the meantime to be able to get to that flight. Just like we see, for example, today, they're flying catch hardware. It's non-structural, but it's enough to be able to test that through re-entry. You can imagine in the future they may fly also docking hardware, and that will not be used, but it's gonna be flown so that they can see if it survives re-entry, if it goes through the profile of the flight, right? Like, we can see that kind of stuff maybe in future, very recent flights from now.
Speaking of Mars, I did see a question that EJ may have a very good answer for, because I'm sure EJ has landed many a ship on many another planet in KSP. Goddess asks, what would the atmosphere on Mars affect the landing procedure? So we're going to start seeing, we've seen the booster being caught. They caught a booster, Flight 5. They're going to try and catch the booster on Flight 7. Flight 8, we might see them try and catch the ship. Now, there's not going to be a large launch tower on Mars when they bring the ship in. They're going to go for a proper landing. What differences when we see the belly flop, for instance, of the ship when it comes for a soft water landing? What differences can we expect for a ship that's trying to land on Mars?
Okay. Well, it really depends on where you land on Mars. So, guys, Mars does have an atmosphere. It's not Earth's atmosphere, but it still is there. There is air. It's not even the same composition as our atmosphere. It's close, but it's not exactly the same. It's mostly CO2. But I digress. Like, changing the subject there for a second. It should be about the same. You should still be able to use your flaps, but the descent profile, Chris, really depends on where you're coming from. That's a real big deal. If you're coming from a transmartian injection, so you're coming in with all that speed that you needed to get the transfer orbit going from Earth to Mars, the descent profile probably is going to end up looking more like these water landings that we've been seeing. Obviously, you're not landing in water on Mars. That's there's no water there, at least on the surface, as we know there. But it seems like there might be something under there. But maybe we should go there and find out. I think that's a good idea. We should do that. So if you're coming in from a transmartian injection, you're going to get a landing that looks more like what you see here on Earth. However, if you are coming in from low Martian orbit, at that point, dude, the atmosphere, the only reason you're going to see like an Earth-like landing coming in from trans-Martian injection is because you're coming in so fast, it's enough to be able to use that atmosphere to brake, right? If you're coming from low Martian orbit, you're probably going to see something similar to an HLS landing, or at least what I would imagine an HLS landing to look like. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. I think it'll happen this year. You guys can call me nuts. That's totally fine. It really depends on where you're coming from, right? It depends on where you're coming from. I think coming from Earth, straight down to the surface of Mars, you're going to see something similar to what we're seeing here on these test flights. But if, in the future, maybe SpaceX has a Martian ascent and descent starship that's just designed to do that, you're going to see something similar to like an HLS landing. Because when you're coming in from low Martian orbit, you don't even need a thermal protection system at that point. You don't need TPS to land on Mars when you're coming from LMO, because you're not going to ionize the gases. You won't be coming in fast enough to ionize your gases. So it really depends. It really depends on where it's coming from, I think.
Very good. I want to thank some more people. I know we get some. I don't expect this amount of support, and that's why I always kind of like go, I'm going to thank some more people, because I feel guilty if I just leave them sat there after they've supported us without giving them mentions to their names. So I'm going to speed run these people because it's very much appreciated. Caroline Eagle gifted 5 red team memberships. Matthew asks a question after buying something from the store, which you can do, by the way. If you get something from our store, there's a little option to ask a question while you check out, which is a cool little thing we added just as a way of, supporting us, but also you get to ask a question at the same time if you need to. Matthew asks, when do you think the first booster reuse will be? So that's a question that comes up a lot on Raptor Side, which is a show we do twice a week on Starbase Live. And the answers are always kind of like varying. I'm going to ask chat to join in with this one as well. Which flight do you think, this is Flight 7, so which flight do you think will be the first flight to refly a booster? Not necessarily the booster number, which flight do you think will be the one that uses a reflown booster? Alex, you go first.
I think there's a good chance that it's going to be in the next few flights. Maybe in the low 10s, like flight 10, 11, 12. I wouldn't be able to exactly put like a number to it, but I think we're very close.
EJ, which one do you think?
I don't. Okay, you know what? I have to remind myself that this isn't the flame trench, right? So we can agree with each other. I don't want to be like, no, I don't think that. It's $1, Bob. No. I agree with Alex. I think somewhere around flight 10 or 11. But you got to take into account that SpaceX is using an iterative design process here. It really, we don't know what's going to happen on flight 8, because what happens on flight 8 or 9 or 10 is always dependent on the subsequent flight. SpaceX is making changes to this vehicle after every single flight, right? It's not like, okay, we're going to fly it, and then we're going to fly it again just to make sure that it works. No, they're changing everything based off of what they learn from the flight. So flight data is king here. So at this particular moment in time, I would agree with Alex. I would say flight 10 or 11, something like that. But it entirely depends on how this flight goes here. But yeah, I would say sooner rather than later.
We've got chat. I'm going to go through some of the chat before it scrolls off the top of my screen. Flight 10, 9, 9, 12, 10, 10, 11, 9, 9, 10, 9. Lots of nines. Lots and lots of nines. I would do a poll, but it's only 4 options on a poll. I might take the average here of 9 to 12 and do a poll. So bear with me. When I come off commentary, I will put a poll in, which is in about 10 minutes' time. So bear with me. That's a good idea for a poll. We'll give it a chance. G36 Pilot has become a Padrat member. Kenzie, Flight 7 is already mental. Store message. It is quite... I tell you what, these views are slightly improving, as the sun starts to get ready to come up. I think the sun comes up in the next 30 minutes or so. So that'll be something where we'll see the views becoming more interesting compared to this night fog view. And we'll have more cameras coming up as well, which will be really cool as well. I do have a question for Alex here. Adia asks, why is the launch window only 1 hour long?
Well, that's essentially what they are able to do in with the hardware and all of the constraints that they have for the mission. You think that for just flying out and then dumping the ship in the Indian Ocean and then coming back with a booster and everything, they could just launch whenever, right? But they have a lot of different assets. For example, one of the things that we know at least is that they seem to be using in some of these missions the TDRS constellation from NASA. And so those, for example, is only a very narrow window of things and of time that you can use those assets. In the case, for example, when it flies off between Florida and Cuba, they also use the tracking systems at the Cape, for example, because they have, you hear that on the comms net when they say acquisition of signal Cape or something like that, right? Because they start using all of those systems as well. That also takes a slot in the whole thing, right? And you only have an allotted time of the day to be able to use that. When you combine all of these restrictions, even for Starlink, for example, they have thousands of satellites up there, but they will need to coordinate with the Starlink constellation to be able to, use those satellites specifically so that they can download all of that video real time with high speeds and everything. Yeah, because this whole thing for this mission, they say that they can transmit 120 megabits per second of live video from Starship. Yeah, hey, there's quite a bit of a cheat there probably with their own systems, because since they own the Starlink constellation, they obviously can do that. But yeah, there's a few different constraints that at the end of the day, it just comes down to this. But one of the main constraints is that they want that Starship landing in daylight. And so that constrains obviously when that window can happen. And different days we'll see different window lengths. Like sometimes we've had 20 minutes of window, sometimes we've had 2 hours. And so for today, it is 1 hour long, opening at 4 p.m. Central Time.
Very good. That was interesting. AJ, I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question of you. Now, people will go, Chris, it's Starship. Why are we not just talking dedicated about Starship? Well, we're going to talk about Starship for the next several hours. We will take any question of relevance. It's a spaceflight question, and it's a shuttle question. And I know AJ, like Sawyer, will love a shuttle question, such as I like asking the shuttle questions. Anthony Miller asks, if NASA were to rebuild a new shuttle with today's technology, what would it be compared to, what would it be comprised of, and would it be cheaper to turn around? Now, EJ, I think we know it'd be cheaper to turn around. We know it'd be safer, but are we talking space planes, a side-mounted on an external tank with SRBs? What would you say would be a modern-day shuttle, and would there even be a need for it with the likes of Starship around?
I would. That last part of the question kind of threw a wrench in my answer.
Yeah, I know.
Because I was about to say you're looking at it on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Chris, what and chat, what you guys are seeing on the screen there, that can be used like a shuttle. We were talking about deorbiting ISS modules with it just a second ago. If they throw like a shuttle style payload bay on this thing and a robotic arm, please do that. I need to see that in my life. All right. But if they did do that, you're looking at it. That right there. That I firmly believe that SpaceX looked at that, you know, when they went to design Starship, they looked at the shuttle and said, okay, let's not do that. Solid rockets? Yeah, no, you know. And I firmly believe that a lot of lessons from the shuttle program found their way into what you guys see on the screen. What you guys see on the screen, like, you know, if it didn't look like what you see on the screen, Chris, I'm gonna go with the typical answer and say Venture Star. I'll just say Venture Star. I love that thing too. I really wish that thing had flown, but yeah, you'd probably get something like Venture Star. This side-mounted SRB thing, I don't think people want. I don't think people want that. You know.
We do bring this up on Shuttle Sundays. We do have another Shuttle Sunday coming up by the way, end of the month. We've been pausing for a while because the next one's 51L. We've got to do that. We've got to do that one respectfully. There's no rushing into that one. We've got to do it respectfully. But we do mention on Shuttle Sunday that myself and Sawyer are big Shuttle fans. Being a big Shuttle fan does not mean you'd wish it'd come back. It doesn't mean, I wish Shuttle was still flying. It does not mean that. It means you respect the fact that it was such a risky vehicle, while very capable, while very expensive, while rather dangerous. But the fact that they got so many missions and so many historical milestones out of it is something you can then say, well, hang on a minute, they've learned a lot of lessons through this, some hard lessons, in fact. And that has paid forward to where we are today. So you can respect the history of it. And my fandom comes from the fact that they got the thing to fly, because everything was against it from the design process onwards, from the cross range capability requirements the Air Force put on it. From the design standpoint, we could go down a rabbit hole here. I'll be very fast, but the reason EJ brings up the fact that Starship is bringing the capability is something I always say, is that Starship is everything Shuttle wanted to be. Some people cringe at that, and I don't blame them for cringing at it, because I say a lot of cringy things. But that is something it's realistic, because it really is the capability, but with the cost down and with the turnaround back, which is what Shuttle never achieved and was meant to achieve, but also with the safety as well. Before we get to crew, I mean, crew launches of Starship is going to be something else anyway, but let's face it, this vehicle brings the capability and more at a cheaper and faster turnaround process than we've ever dreamed of with the Space Shuttle. I also want to bring on X-33 Venture Star. Tory Bruno, ULA's president and CEO, he worked on a Venture Star, and he always goes back, when we bring Venture Star up, he always replies to the tweets, the experts, and says, we could have made that work with today's technology, but there's no need for it. That's the key thing there. that a lot of the things they've worked on before, the likes of Starship and Falcon, and Vulcan, and rockets like that, just aren't needed anymore. They're not there. They're irrelevant now to what's required. So we're in a new era, and I think we should celebrate that and embrace it. We're into a new future era where this big, massive rocket we're looking at right now is going to be taking us forward. As humanity, I say us, I don't mean SpaceX, I mean humanity. It literally is that. Yeah, I went long-winded. I always say, people, don't do long answers, and then I go a long-winded answer like that.
Hey, man, we got a lot of airspace to fill. It's fine.
We do, actually, yeah. To be fair, we've got hours of coverage. We're not leaving this till T-minus 30 minutes. We've started hours before. We've got 9 hours to go before the potential opening of the window for this launch, if they continue through. And we should all be prepared for it. I know the weather is a watch item, and SpaceX themselves said that, weather is a watch item. But I would respect the fact that we've been here before when we didn't think a rocket would launch because of weather, and guess what? It launched. So we are in a stance of expecting that later today, Flight 7 of Starship will be launched. I am going to soon head off and be replaced by the wonderful Gene Rowley, but I want to read this store message out because I think it's wonderful and it's very much something I want to read out. Dear Chris and team, I've followed since 2009 Hopper days, and it's been a joy to see you all grow. The coverage has been truly excellent, and as a fellow Brit, it's great to hear you and Ryan among everyone else. May Jack get infinite bacon, may Alex's speeches be long, may Kevin forever hoot that train horn, may Shuttle always get a call out, and may rockets fly true this week. Go NSF, go SpaceX, go New Glenn. What an amazing message. That is awesome, Alexander. That is amazing. When we have another UK meetup, which we do, we have meetups all over the world, but I obviously go to the UK ones. You've got to come down. I've got to shake you around and I'll buy you a beer, because that is an awesome message. Thank you for that. That is wonderful. Right, where am I? With the? Because that threw me. So I don't know where I am in the thing. Oh, I do have a question here from Graham, who asks, Alex, one for you here. How many V2 engines have been manufactured? So I would assume that's Raptor 3. Do we know how many? Because we've seen some on the test stand via our McGregor coverage. Gary Blair flies a plane locally. He's a local from Waco, who flies past McGregor. He, in the early days, years and years ago, said, Chris, do you want some photographs? Because I passed by this facility. I said, yes, please. And he gets photographs of Raptor 3s. I think we've seen at least the third Raptor 3 on the test stand, Alex, haven't we?
The fourth, actually.
Ooh, fourth.
So we saw one of them recently that had a 4 on the nozzle, and so usually that means that is the serial number 4. And just in case, for whatever reason, they're meaning Raptor 2, I'm mostly sure they're trying to mean Raptor 3, which, by the way, this ship does not have Raptor 3s. So this whole vehicle today is flying with Raptor 2s. But for Raptor 2s, which is V2 Raptor, right? They have at least up until 569, if I'm not mistaken. We've seen at least very high numbers there on their serial numbers. But yeah, in comparison, Raptor 3 only is 4 that we've seen so far.
Very good. And yeah, this is the transitional phase of the Starship program. We've seen the progress already from the first flight, where I always like to say it dug a hole to China because it sent concrete flying, RIP van, danger van. But then they've got progress. They've had very good progress since then. The way they've advanced to Flight 5, where they actually caught the booster, I think, and chat, join in with this one. Did you expect Flight 5 to be the flight where they caught the booster? I've got to say, hand on heart, I thought it'd be later. I didn't think they'd go for it. I didn't think it'd work on Flight 5. That surprised me, and it also encouraged me, because that is extremely good news. I'm seeing a lot of no's. I will get a few yeses, because people in chat like to be different, but look at this, mostly no. So that's chicken legs. Chicken legs, I knew there'd be one person to go, yeah, I fully expected it, completely expected it. With that same token, chat, I'm making this interactive as possible here. Do you think Flight 8, we're going to see a ship catch? I should make a poll, but I'll do polls later. I'm going to ask you literally to type yes or no. Do we think Flight 8 will see the ship being caught by the chopsticks? What do you think, EJ?
My gut says yes, but once again, SpaceX is using an iterative design philosophy here. So the next flight is only as good as the data that comes from this flight, right? So let's say Flight 7 is 100% successful and they achieve all their test objectives and it is perfect. Booster, they get that booster back, they catch it on chopsticks, everything's good. That Block 2 Starship performs great. yeah, I think we'll see the ship catch sooner rather than later. But it really depends on this test. It really does.
Alex, Flight 8, do you think they'll catch the ship?
Well, Elon said if Flight 7 is successful on the ocean landing, right? They may try that on Flight 8. When he said that after Flight 4, and he said, next flight, we're going to catch the booster, everybody was like, no, there's no way. No, they're not going to be doing that. And they did. So
Same. Yeah, I was exactly the same, Alex. But the question would be, do you think they will succeed in catching the ship on Flight 8?
On the first try, I mean, they did with the booster, right? That's the tricky thing. And they have attempted more landings. Like, they have had more successful landings of the ship than the booster. Because the booster, they only had one successful landing on Flight 4. And they were like, okay, good enough. Let's go back to the launch site and catch this thing, right? With the ships, it's true that on Flight 4, for example, we saw the first successful landing of the ship. And it was off target, but it was successful. Like, it landed in one piece, essentially. Not so much in one piece afterwards, but it was still in one piece. Bit of a burn through the flap. On Flight 5, the same. Flight 6 as well. Flight 7, if the ship lands successfully, that will be 4 times in a row that it's soft splashdown, on the ocean. So I think there might be a good chance that in Flight 8, if they actually go for a catch, it may be caught. Yeah, we'll see though. Knock on wood. That's lots of ifs there.
Watch this for a smooth handover, boys and girls. Gene Rowley, I wonder if you think Flight 8 they'll catch a ship.
110% yes, Chris. I'm an optimist.
How smooth is that? That was Gene's idea, by the way. I think that was Carson's idea, actually. But yeah, I am going to hand over hosting now to Gene Rowley because I last an hour before I melt into a puddle of mud because that's where I am. I'm getting old. But we're going to keep the coverage going. We're going to keep interchanging commentary throughout and keep your questions coming because we'll answer as many questions as possible. We have another 8 hours and 58 minutes before the opening of the window. So we've got plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions and for us to answer them. But Gene is going to take over from now, and I shall speak to you all later. Goodbye.
One and only Chris B, everybody. Thanks for that, and welcome aboard, everybody, again to Stakeout. And this is my first Stakeout ever, so this is going to be something new for me, and it sounds like it's a lot of fun. I've been listening in to Alex and EJ and all the great questions that you guys have been putting in chat. So keep those questions coming at NASASpaceflight, and we will get to as many of them as we can. And on your screen, as the sun comes up here in Starbase, Texas, we're getting some absolutely beautiful morning views of this beautiful ship and booster, and all of us are excited for potentially a liftoff today. So I'm going to ask EJ and Alex, how are you guys doing this morning? Alex, I'll go to you first.
I'm still a bit sleepy, of course, but trying to wake up. This lead up to the launch, every single time we get close to a Starship flight, I may be tired, but the hype kind of keeps me up because it's like, oh, we're about to see something really exciting today. And so, as we get very, very close to that launch, just less than 9 hours away, and some people might see, oh, that's still a long time from now, right? But we've been on countdown to launch streams and everything where the countdown clock is like 70 hours and things like that. So definitely a lot closer than on those streams, and we're gonna try and cover all of the things leading up to the flight.
I know what it feels like to be tired. You can almost hear it in my voice, but I'm ready for this. EJ, I know you're a little bit tired too, but you sound great, and we're ready for a launch today, aren't we?
I think we are. In terms of how I'm doing right now, I would say coffee.
Exactly right. Just keep bringing us. Just keep bringing us coffee. And chat. Good morning to everybody out there watching. Your comments and questions go by. Send those questions in. I'm looking forward to more of these sunrise views. But I really wish the cloud layer would burn off. But if anybody's going to launch in the rain, it would be Elon and it would be SpaceX. And I'm going to run through, as Chris B likes to say, speed run these support. Thank yous, Spida. Thank you for that. £2, excuse me. Here's a question. Trying 2 engines for deorbit demo failover. Alex, I'm going to come to you for that because I know today in the coast phase, we should see a deployment of some Starlink satellite simulators, if you will, or what do they call them? Dumb links, I think people are calling them. But we're also going to see an on-orbit relight. Do you think they'll try 1 burn, 2 burns, 2 engines? What do you think is going to happen today during that?
I think it's gonna be pretty much like a mirror of what we saw on Flight 6, one single engine for just less than 5 seconds, essentially. And one of the things that we saw is that actually for Flight 6 it was forward, so it's moving prograde, right? Rather than, so it was not a deorbit burn, it was more like a boost burn kind of thing, where it boosted itself a little bit more. But of course, at that point, it's already coming back down, so it doesn't really change things a lot. It just changes a bit, like slightly the angle of the reentry, but it doesn't really affect much. Like, it doesn't put it in orbit, essentially. So I would expect something similar for Flight 7, where, you know, they just do that same kind of 5-second burn with one single engine, and try to you know, change the orbit. That's one of the things, because this kind of relight in space is not just good for testing the deorbit of the ship. As I was mentioning before, in the future they're going to be moving to different orbits. Like yesterday, for example, we saw the Transporter 12 mission from Vandenberg. That mission went to 2 different orbits. So the Falcon 9 second stage did 2 burns at first, and it deployed like a bunch of payloads to that orbit. And then it relight again the second stage engine two times to move to a different orbit, and then deploy a bunch of all the payloads to that second orbit. So you can think something similar in the future, where Starship goes to one orbit first, drops off a bunch of payloads, and then moves to another orbit, drops off a bunch of payloads, and then it needs to come back and do a deorbit burn. So, like, that's something that I can see in the future, where they try not just one relight of the Raptor engines, but like multiple of them, to be able to make sure that they can do these complicated, complex, you know, multi-orbit missions. And that's probably not going to be like, that's going to be the simplest missions in the long run for Starship, because again, long run, that's going to be Mars. And so you're going to Mars, you're doing a bunch of burns and everything. Like, it's just going to be like nothing in the future for Starship, but, you know, step by step.
And, you know, we saw that at McGregor, where they kept test firing that one Raptor over and over and over and over. And again, that goes back to what you were saying. It's not just one burn to get to Mars or pretty much anywhere else. So we'll see what happens during the coast phase if they launch today. Joseph with a store message. Unfortunately, Joseph is leaving Starbase today. That's what happens with rockets. We come in, we slip to the right. Maybe, you know, it doesn't launch. Who knows? But you can stay right here at NSF on your way out, Joseph, to watch all of the action today. And speaking of Starbase, official sunrise, I heard you guys talking about it earlier. Official sunrise is 7:18 here locally in Starbase. So we have lots of cameras in the field. We were out there late last night putting the cameras up. The team at NSF was in the field, walking along the dunes, getting everything set up and ready to go. So after sunrise, 7:18, stay right here, because we're going to see a whole lot of maybe slow-mos of the sunrise and panning shots and all kinds of great stuff that's coming from NSF. EJ, I have a question for you. There's been a lot of talk about potentially putting cameras on those Starlink dummy satellites and potentially seeing the after deployment, the Starship as that dummy satellite floats away during deployment. What do you think the odds are that they actually did that?
I wouldn't throw it past them, Gene. I wouldn't throw it past them. That seems like something they would do. I mean, you know, this is the company that mounted a camera in one of their flaps. You know, the past flights, the camera we see with where you can see all the plasma flow coming off the back of the vehicle, that's inside of a flap, right? I wouldn't throw it past them. I really, really wouldn't. However, you know, I saw them loading up those dumb links, right? We saw them on a Starbase update. If you guys haven't seen that, it's on the NSF videos channel. It's in there somewhere amongst all the other content that crazy amounts of content that NSF puts out. These are excellent videos, but when I saw them putting them in, it didn't look like they had much on them. So I want to believe, I really do, I want to believe that we're gonna see, you know, a shot back at Starship, right? You know, floating around in space from one of these dumb links, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Didn't look like they had any hardware on it. Yeah, Ben Fryer, thank you for that question. That was good. And we all have our sitting here with our fingers crossed,
hoping that actually happens. Finder, thank you for that super chat. First, Alex with his moon museum. Here's my take on that. Isn't the moon already a museum? Like, it's got all of the things that we've put up there, the landers, the legs of the Saturn V landers. And I mean, isn't it already a museum?
Well, you kind of need some
of.
place in the future, right, for moon tourists to visit, and so you probably have like a dome kind of museum where you put some of the Apollo lunar landers and things like that. Like, I don't know, that would be fun, right?
It would be. You hike out to the lunar lander or any of the emissions that were still up there on their sides or what have you. Jorg, thank you so much for that 6-pound super chat. Have you guys heard about the Moon Gallery? It's a 10 by 10 by 1 centimeter art gallery containing 100 art. That's amazing. It's a bit wee, as Chris B would say. 10 by 10 by 1 centimeter? Am I reading that right? The goal is to have it on the... No, it can't be. It'd be tiny. It'd be the size of your thumbnail. I mean, not by 10 centimeters, but what a strange... We'll have to look that one up. Appreciate that. Let's see. Snallygaster, thank you for the upgraded membership, Red Team. Guys, if you want to join more of the content, as EJ was saying, we here at NSF, there are cameras everywhere. And you're seeing all these live views. And again, we thank all these people, and it's really you guys that make all of this possible. Us being out here in the field, these amazing camera views, and we're going to see a lot more as the sun comes up from all the cameras that were deployed yesterday and the day before, etc. So thank you guys so much. Let's see. Do we have notification that the WB-57 is heading here today? I know later on when we get to the full launch stream, we're going to have Ryan, and he's going to be tracking all of the ships and the planes, etc. But Alex, I'm going to come to you for this one, unless you toss this to EJ, because this is one of those questions I don't know where to go because it's too early in the morning and I need more coffee. Do we have confirmation that the WB-57 is flying to Starbase today?
I really don't know, because one of the things that happens with the WB-57 is that right now it's also busy. So it's going to be used for Blue Origin's New Glenn, and I believe there's only one in action right now, because the other ones are sort of in maintenance. I'm trying to look at the schedule for that. Yeah, one of them is in major overhaul and repairs and whatnot, and the other is also a major inspection. So there's only one single WB-57 right now in action, and it seems like that's the one that we saw heading to the Cape. It landed at the Kennedy Space Center, I think it was last week, and it's there to essentially image the Blue Origin's New Glenn launch.
We'll see if that thing is flying, because obviously we track all of those things. Bacon Warrior, thank you so much for that generous super chat. Let's go SpaceX. Let's go Flight 7. He says, hype is at its max. I would totally agree. And speaking of max, if you didn't go back and check out that Falcon 9 mission late last night, they were in the field with Dee and Adrian, and I believe, Alex, you were on that stream as well. That was a really, really cool launch. I think Sawyer was in the field and Julie was out there. And, of course, everybody in the back working and pressing buttons to make it possible for us to do what we do. Let's see. So, EJ, I'm going to come to you on this one. We've talked about the ship and the booster ad nauseum, and we keep seeing them take the hot stage ring off, put the hot stage ring back on. At what point are we going to actually move forward, do you think? Obviously, this is your opinion. Move forward to a Block 2 booster and have that integrated hot stage ring?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good question. I think we'll see it probably a little later this year. And I know that's okay. You're EJ, nice abstract answer, buddy. Right? Like, no, I think it's going to be later this year. I think that SpaceX is really trying to iron out the reliability of that booster. The booster is a huge, critical piece of equipment here. Gene, you got to think about it like this. If HLS is their big Their big thing. I mean, obviously they're building starships for, deploying Starlinks, right? Deploying these dumb links and then, testing like V3 Starlinks maybe in the future. But, that HLS mission is time sensitive, right? NASA's looking at maybe, utilizing it in 2020, sometime between 2026 and 2028. In terms of progress of like a super heavy launch vehicle's iteration, that's right around the corner. And you got to think about it. If that HLS needs to be refueled 16 times up in space, don't get me wrong. Like, everybody's like, oh, that's really complicated. Yeah, it's really complicated architecture. Have you looked at the screen lately? Like, look at this thing. Of course it is, right? Anytime you're trying to do something like this, it's absurdly hard. But the booster is something that absolutely has to work. You are not expending 16 super heavies just to send one lander to the moon. There's no way they're going to do that. I think they would be more likely to expend ships over boosters, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that booster progression is going to happen a lot faster. It's going to happen quick. We'll see one this year for sure. They have to get that right. If that booster has to be 100% reliable, 100% reusable, like if not more than a Starship, it has to work. That has to be right. If it's not right, you're going to run into some serious mission like in the concept of operations and the ConOps for Starship HLS that we've seen, you're going to run into some serious logistics problems trying to expend 16 of these things to get one HLS out there. I'm not saying they're going to do that, guys. Like I really think we're going to see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and with everything else SpaceX does, their reusability numbers, they're like, oh, let's be conservative. Let's start at, say, we'll have one booster for 10 ships. And realistically, if the booster can get to a point of reusability where it is as reliable, air fingers quote, as getting, flying a 747, do the fit checks, fuel it up and go, you could get to one booster for 15 ships, one for 20. And in that case, you have this mass market factory, aka Star Factory of ships, which is what they're doing, and you really can slow down. And we saw some of that manufacturing come to a head. What was it, a couple months ago, where it's like, we don't need any more boosters, guys. We're good on boosters. And we got to crank out those ships. And that's really what they're going to get to is, hey, we're going to launch a ship. It's going to be in orbit, as Alex said earlier. Could be up there for a day, a couple days, a week to do whatever it needs to do with missions and science and sending people to the moon. And that's the same booster going up and down and up and down, up and down. And until we get to where we don't have to throw that hot stage ring away and we're at, version 2 of the booster, block 2 booster, they're just going to keep going and going and going. And that's why I think today, as we come up on sunrise at 7:18 local here in Starbase, Texas, that's why I honestly think they're going to launch today. If the winds are in tolerance today for flight, they're going to launch it. Because you have to remember, and we all forget this, everything we see right now at Starbase is R&D. This is not an operational system. They are testing this to its limits, and they want to push it as far as they possibly can. They want to speed up the fueling process, the loading process, and iterate with every single thing they do. So if they want to launch it to see if it can launch at 0 degrees ambient air temperature, or if they want to launch it in the rain, they're going to have to, once this becomes an operational vehicle, they're going to have to be able to work in those conditions. Yes, it stinks for us because we want to see it fly all the way up to stage separation, boost back burn, and so on. But from a scientist's perspective, launching it in the absolute worst possible conditions with minimal tolerances, they get way more data. We don't get the views we want, but the scientists, the engineers, they get a lot more data to play with on the next version and the next launch, aka Flight 8. Guys, you are sending so many great questions in. I'm trying to get to all of them. Please be patient. We appreciate it. What a beautiful shot. One of the cameras that are out there at Starbase. And all of this is because of your generous support. Being out there with us, it's like being there with you. I was watching I was sitting out yesterday next to Starhopper, which is now over in what's called the Danger Lot, and we were rewatching the very first Starhopper flight, while sitting there looking at it. And on the screen, it looks like this little Lego piece is flying because the drone shot was so far away. But when you're standing next to Starhopper and you see this giant water tank, you still, your brain doesn't make that connection with the proportions we're talking about here. Let's see, Astro Knucklehead. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that support. $5 Canadian. Come on, Gene, do it. All right. Coming up next on the hardest catch. I don't know if I want to do that in movie trailer voice. It's a little early in the morning, but I will do it throughout the day. Coming up next on the hardest catch. There you go. There it is. That's the best I can do this morning.
Oh my goodness. That was awesome.
One Air RN. Thank you for that $5 tip. EJ, they have a question for you. How are the Sawyer Sandcrawler plans going for Starbase? You committed on the Flame Trench. I'm going to put you on the spot for this one because I talked to Sawyer just the other day about it. And I was like, when you're ready to go, I'm ready to go. Let's go. What do you think, EJ? When is that going to happen?
You know what? We don't. The plans are tentative at this point, but if we're going to commit to it, I'll see what I can do for you. You know what I mean? I mean, that is a very big engineering challenge, but I think we can do it. I think we can do it. We might have to rapidly iterate a little bit, but it's doable.
100% doable, and I appreciate you bringing up Sawyer. In the field last night for that Starlink mission with those 2 moon missions, Hakuto R mission 2, and then also Blue Ghost. That was a lot of fun to watch. It was a little late for me. Yes, to infinity and beyond. We're gonna get there. Alex, I'm gonna bring you back in, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the Starlink, what we now call version 3s, the Starlink V3s. Supersonic retro propulsion, the greatest words in spaceflight. EJ and I love those. Wants to know, would you expect Starlink V3s to be brighter in the sky when first deployed as compared to V2 minis, or dimmer since it may have more advanced mitigations? This was a big deal when they started launching Starlinks, and you could see them streaming, and the astrophysicists and cosmologists were like, hey, we're messing up our telescope views, if you guys don't remember. What do you think about V3s, Alex?
Well, there's a good chance that at least after deployment, they are brighter because they are sort of like, in their deployment attitude and things like that. But one of the things that SpaceX does, at least with the V2 minis, is they, once they have been deployed and they have completed their orbit racing maneuvers and everything, they start putting them in such an attitude that they present the least amount of surface to the ground with least reflections and things like that. They use these materials that are also such that the way that the reflections hit on the ground are sort of like skewed and different than what you would see with normal reflective materials. So it's actually it's interesting because the material that they use is actually reflective, which you will think it's like the opposite of what they need, but it reflects back up. It doesn't reflect back to the ground, which is the important thing. Like it being reflective, it's a bad thing, but if it reflects up instead of down to the ground, then that kind of solves the whole issue, right? Because you're like, okay, that's the thing that you need to prevent, the reflection to go down to the ground, that sunlight hitting the satellite. If instead of reflecting back to the ground and affecting people on the Earth, it goes up into space, then sure, that's good, right? And so for version 3, I expect something similar where maybe at first, right after deployment, the satellite is sort of in a weird attitude. It's not at the perfect attitude. And then as they transition to an orbit operations, then the satellite gets into the proper attitude to minimize its brightness. It's very likely as well that, with a bigger satellite, it might not be as bright because even though it sounds probably counterintuitive, but with a bigger satellite and bigger ship that it's carrying, right? The rocket is bigger and everything. You're able to put things like sunshades, for example. Who knows? Maybe they can experiment back with those. Remember when they started putting visors on their satellites way back when, right? Maybe something like that might be useful now that they have a bigger rocket to launch these satellites. So that's one of the things that they are able to experiment now as they start launching those Starlink satellites.
Yeah, there's the conversation about the Starlink satellites impeding or impinging some of the ground-based astronomy, and we have to have this balanced approach. None of us want any satellites to make it difficult for other scientists to do what they do, but you have to look at the trade-off of the high-speed, low-latency potential internet from around the world. And we all look at the model of this little Earth surrounded by what looks like billions of satellites. Relatively speaking, they are small. Now, the V3s are the biggest ones that they're launching. So, in aviation, we used to say big sky, little plane. And in space, it's even more apparent that space is really big, guys. Just in case anybody was wondering, it's hard to wrap our minds around it. But we all know that rockets going up have to do like avoidance maneuvers. The ISS is always moving. So potentially, these satellites are going to come down over time. Just keep that in the back of your minds. But again, I want to just point out, we do have this balanced approach. So astronomy can keep doing what astronomy does, and we do bring internet and communication to the entire planet. That's not an ad, by the way. It might sound like it. It's not an ad. I want to clean space too. I want to go there. I don't know about you guys in chat, but let's go. Let's go to space together. Where was that one? I just had a great question. Like now, I've lost it. Things are moving all around. I want to see, I know we talked a little bit in the back channel about some slow-mos about sunrise, but guess what? What you're seeing right now is sunrise. We're hoping these clouds will burn off later in the day. Right now, Alex, it's a 1 hour window you said earlier at 4 p.m. local time. Is that right?
4 p.m. Central.
4 p.m. Central. So hopefully this will burn off. You can see the no earlier than clock in the upper left-hand corner. Of course, the engineers and everybody at SpaceX are going to be making weather calls throughout the day. They're going to be looking at it very closely. But as of right now, I think right around noon Central Time, we're going to start our launch stream. But we are on Stakeout, and that's the view from our hotel here at Margaritaville Resort on South Padre Island, who are gracious enough to let us come here and broadcast. And it's... Oh, wait, no, this is Outpost. Sorry. The rocket should be on the left from our view. If the rocket's on the right, this is the amazing view you get from Outpost. If Starship is on the left, it's the Margaritaville cam. So I messed that up. This is Outpost. And you can see the low clouds and the haze come in and out. That is the hotel view. You see the rocket disappear? That's what we see. So if you want a really good view... Yeah, it's like the fog moves in, the fog moves out. So if you want a good view, check out Outpost. And they have amazing views of these launches. And there's the Outpost view again. So Carson's in the back channel. He's like, no, Gene, it's this one. It's this one. Appreciate you guys in the back. Let's see. Tony James, thank you so much. $5 super chat. I love to see SpaceX go orbital and land in the Gulf. I don't know about that. We all love rockets, and we want to see New Glenn go as well. They've had their launches and they've had their slips, just like every other launch. And again, that's R&D, guys. You got to remember, this is all iterative research. Two different companies, two different private organizations with two different approaches. And when you look at all of this people in the space industry, all of the launch providers, everybody has their little niche that they're in, right? And they're trying to stay in that niche while also innovating. So don't get upset when rocket launches slip to the right a little bit, or, I don't want to use the S word, but that's rocketry. And the more they do that, the better they get the next time and the next time and the next time. Let's see. Greetings from South Dakota with a store message. Dave, thank you so much for that. Tuning in from South Dakota. Here in Starbase, we met some folks from South Dakota in the elevator, as one does. So we love it. People come in from all over. We were talking to some folks. We just randomly, this was kind of funny. We were out there setting cameras and we were just randomly talking to people. EJ and I were out there with Tanner and some of the other NSF guys in the field. And we were talking to them and we were like, let's just talk to people. They come up to us. We say hi and shake hands. all three of them were from 3 different locations in Canada. We just happened to have all of the Canadians represent here in Starbase. Let's see. Gresh, store message. Thank you. I've got every Starship launch patch and plan to get everyone through Flight 10, which I hope to see live. Go NSF, go SpaceX, go Flight 7. Thank you very much for that. I ordered my patch the day it came out. Another amazing design. You can see a little bit of it on the screen there. Shop.NASASpaceflight.com. Shirts with the patch on it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I do too. And one of the best store messages I have seen to date is Owen, who just says, coming up on the screen here, yippee. You can pre-order the Flight 7 patch now. Go out there. There it is on your screen. And another great design. Adrian and the team at the store are doing amazing stuff with their designs. And there's some new stuff, I think, that came out for Blue yesterday from Adrian in anticipation of New Glenn's launch. Guys, we can't say it enough. We do what we do because of you guys. All right. Let's see. Coming to you, EJ. Jack Bartlett wants to know if Ship 33 survived splashdown intact, because we did see some video from SpaceX after the last flight. If Ship 33 splashes down intact, SpaceX plans to, let me get this up on the screen for everybody. SpaceX plans to tow it to Western Australia. Have you heard that? I have not heard that.
I've heard whispers that they might do it, and you know, if it was any other time, if it was any other company, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're gonna do that. All right, cool. It sounds like we got something venting from the pad there. But you know, if it was anybody else, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're gonna do that. Sure, you're gonna do that. But you know, Gene, this is a company that caught a 22-story building out of the sky and landed it. You know, I really don't think anything is beyond SpaceX's, we'll say, industrial dexterity there. I totally think that could happen.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and the reason they do that is because of the flight data. You know, what's in the military, we used to say, you know, your plan is only as good as your first engagement with the enemy, or as Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. You can sit around a desk with a bunch of engineers and talk until everyone falls asleep, but until you fly that vehicle, the telemetry, and that's why today in a foggy, cloudy day, they're going to get different data than they do on a beautiful sunny day, which we all want to see. We all want to see the beautiful sunny day launches and the daytime re-entries and so on. But for them, flying it on a cloudy, rainy day, as long as the winds are within tolerance, they get more data. And as Jack likes to say, more data, more better. So, Alex, what do you think? Do you think if Ship 33 lands, soft splashdown, falls over, and doesn't go boom, you think they're going to tow it?
Well, if it survives, maybe they will try. That's one of the things that might happen, right? If it really, really is intact, maybe. I don't know. It's a long way out, though. So it's going to be delicate and really, you know.
How would they get it back to Starbase, or would they take it apart in Australia?
Oh, to Starbase. I think that they will probably get it in Australia. Like, that's one of the things that I was thinking, that they may go to Australia because it's nearby. Still, it's quite a ways out. Like, I think it's 100 miles or so away from the closest, you know, piece of land. So it's still quite a trip. The only piece of vehicle so far that they have been able to tug through, with like, you know, vehicle as in a rocket, was B-1050, a Falcon 9 booster that landed in the ocean, but it landed like really, really just offshore. It was like maybe less than 5 kilometers offshore. It was very, very close to the port as well, and it still took a while to get it prepared and then towed to port. And one of the other things that you have to consider is sometimes ports are very, how to say this, they don't like things dangerous going through their channels and going into their docks. And so whenever they put it on Australia, they might have some kind of deals already in place for that, and they'll probably have to do a lot of safing, perhaps, because it took a while for them to get approval to get that Falcon 9 booster through the channel at Port Canaveral. So just to make sure.
The Upside Down of YouTube wants to know, what's the weather look like for launch today? Upside Down, look at your screen. We have low clouds. What you're looking at, the full stack there, the ship is 400 feet, 398. Alex is going to correct me if I'm not exactly right. 398 feet. So the clouds are there. Clouds are at 400, say, 450 feet. Or what?
Hang on. For today's is 404. 404 feet from the bottom. This is one of the things, though. It's from the bottom of the engines on the booster to the tip of the nose cone. You still have about 20 meters, which would be roughly 65 feet from the base of the launch pad to the top of the launch mount. So the tip of the rocket is probably closer to about 450 feet from the ground, or about 140 meters from the ground.
And this is why we have you here, because I'm going to say things in general terms for everybody watching. And I love it when Alex says, no, you're off by 1 meter.
Oh, because why? You know why? That's because today's stack is taller by 1.8 meters.
That's exactly right. 1.8 meters taller. Yep. And Alex, why is that?
Because they're debuting a new ship, the Block 2 ship, or version 2, or next generation, whatever wording you want to use, because every single one of them is official, by the way. Like, I've seen some people saying, oh, but SpaceX calls it Block 2 on labels, and it's like, yeah, and on infographics and everything, they call it Starship 2, and on the website they call it the next generation ship. Like, they just say different words for the same thing that we all know already, and Elon calls it like the V2 for version 2, right? Like, it's different words for the same thing. It's just an improved version of the ship, the next version, and it's 1.8 meters taller. We know that because it's one single ring taller, and each ring on Starship, they are made of these stainless steel rings. The structure, at the very least, the flaps obviously not, but the structure of the ship and the booster, they are made of rings. And so in the case of the ship, it has an extra ring. Each one of those rings is 6 feet tall, or 1.8 meters tall. So today's stack is just 1.8 meters taller. And so when you said, I think you said 398, so you gotta add 6 feet. That's 404 feet.
And I'm 6'2", and I'm standing next to that thing. Your mind doesn't comprehend how tall it is. So what I do is I tell people, count the rings, and then when they count the rings, I say, now add my height, and
someone
you have
said,
how long it is.
That's a big ring, and I'm like, yeah, that's taller than me. I'm 5'5", so I'm very tiny compared to one of those rings, and there are 21 of them on the ship alone. The booster has 30. So there's 33, of regular 6 feet tall rings. This is another thing as well. The booster has 4 rings that are not 6 feet tall. It's 4.5. It's a weird thing that they have in the aft section, but still, there's a lot of rings on this full stack, and each one of them is about the average size of a human.
And for those of you just joining us, that was Alex with another Alexism. We need some sound effects in the background. We need one of those Science with Alex sound effects. What you're looking at right now is Ship 33 on top of Booster 14. The chopsticks are open, and if you can see in the upper left-hand corner, we are no earlier than just past 8.5 hours to launch. Potentially today, we have a 1-hour window at 4 p.m. Central Time here in Starbase, Texas. And we appreciate you guys tuning in this morning to our Stakeout launch here at NSF. I'm Gene Rowley, and I'm joined by Alex, which you just heard, giving that correction to me. It is 1.8 meters taller than a Block 1 ship. And also, EJ is in the background sipping on coffee and probably eating a Pop-Tart, if I had to guess.
How'd you know?
It's almost like you two can see each other, right?
It's almost like I'm the guy that took him the Pop-Tart earlier today. And we appreciate all of you guys watching along with us. Yes, they are planning a launch potentially today. They do have a window open, as I said, at 4 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be here throughout. I think Adrian is coming up in a couple hours for Stakeout, and we're going to talk about this and answer your questions. So be sure to get them in at NASASpaceflight.com here on YouTube. And, you can find more information if you're like us, and I know you are because you're here wherever you are on planet Earth, joining us in the chat and joining us here on YouTube. You can find a lot more NSF content. We have NASASpaceflight.com. Join the forums, become a member, and check out all of the amazing articles that our writers are putting out. And on X, there's a lot of information going out, a lot of X posts at NASA Spaceflight on X, Instagram, Facebook. Follow all of them because even I miss a launch sometimes. And if I want to see, I come here to YouTube and I look that up on NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel. But there are a lot of other socials that you can find us. And if you see us on the street, stop, say hi. We'd love to talk to you guys because we're like you. I've been watching NSF for years and years and years, and now it's a privilege to be on this side of it, standing next to that rocket and waiting for it to launch. And all of it, 100% of it, is because of your support. So I want to thank Alejo for your very generous super chat. Alejo says it doesn't look like good weather for launch today. I define good. Is it good for us? Probably not the best. Is it good for the engineers in the background at SpaceX? Yeah, they want to see how this thing reacts in potentially inclement weather, as long as the winds are within tolerance. Anonymous with a store message from earlier. They had me doing some voiceover stuff. Yes, to infinity and beyond today is where we're going. Thank you so much for going out to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, sending the store message in. They're so generous. One of the things that I learned about this community is, before being on the other side of the screen, watching the rocket launches like you're doing today, is that you're talking in chat, you're hitting the like button, you're going out and doing all of those things. So we appreciate it, and it's overwhelming for us on our side. And EJ and I actually had a conversation about this the other day, how amazingly generous folks are when we want to see a rocket launch. So let's find another great question. EJ, I'm going to come to you for this one. Okay. This is from believe it or not, Steven Tyler. I don't know if it's the Steven Tyler, but it's a Steven Tyler. That's a great question about Dragon. Now, here's an interesting one. Do you think that SpaceX will use Dragon to put astronauts on Starship after the in-orbit refueling for safety? Or, and I'm going to add to Steven's question, you launch with astronauts and then just once it becomes reliable enough, you just go for refueling. What are your thoughts in the future? Read your crystal ball.
Okay, all right. Let's see. What is it saying? What does it say? Oh, wait, this is a magic 8-ball. Oh, sorry. No. It says yes. All right. Yeah. All right. Great.
Rephrase your question.
No. All right. I think that it's possible that you could do that. That would be a very safe thing to do. But here's the thing. Like, if you're going to reload an HLS and then you're going to put people with a Dragon, you're going to put people on a Dragon, you're going to have those people get to HLS, and then you're going to send that out to the moon. How are they coming home? That's where I'm at. How are they coming home? That'll get people to the surface of the moon. Easily get people to the surface of the moon. Mm-hmm. But what do you do after that? HLS is not designed to come back to low Earth orbit. I don't think they have the fuel to do that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that delta V equation is kind of limiting you in getting an HLS back. And Dragon, as far as I can tell, I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but Dragon doesn't really go outside of low Earth orbit. It was really designed to stay in LEO, right? So low Earth orbit for short. Could SpaceX go ham, modify a Dragon to do it? There's no doubt in my mind. But Gina, you got to think about, like, why wouldn't you just push to make Starship like fully human rated at that point? Yeah. You're running into complicated mission logistics now, and now you're going to redo Dragon to do basically what you want Starship to do, or a crew rated version of Starship eventually. I think that might be a good interim thing to do, maybe to test your human rated systems on an HLS or something. But And maybe, I mean, I personally think that might happen with a Polaris mission, maybe, but that one's up in the air. Not actually, right? Like, we don't know with Jared Isaacman and what's going to happen there. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but I think that would be an interesting thing to do. At least, I mean, you might as well. If you're going to test Starship in Leo, it's there. Might as well do it.
Yeah, I think they're getting to a point where refueling the ship with humans on board is just an inevitability. It's just another one of those milestones they need to check off because, they want to send a fleet of these things to Mars eventually with humans on board from a scientific colonial perspective. I don't want to go down that route, but from a science perspective, humans are going to have to be there, and it's just totally inefficient to launch empty ships, then refuel them, then launch a bunch of humans. You have the cargo space. It's going to be human rated eventually. And they're going to get to a point where you just have to do it.
I think it's inevitable, Gene.
Exactly. From a logistics standpoint, how long would it take to do all of that in 2 steps rather than 1 step? So I think, it's an inevitability. Let's see. Alex, I'm going to throw this one to you. Joel Sapp wants to know, do you think SpaceX will ever deliver Starships to the Cape by flying them there fully or partially?
Well, I think just for the sake of delivering, that would be probably not ideal. What I can see, though, is a Starship launches from Starbase, right? It does its thing in orbit. And then instead of landing at Starbase, it just lands at Florida. Like, I can see that. And the other way around as well. Like, maybe you see a Starship launching from Florida. It goes into orbit. It does its thing up there, and then comes back. And when it comes back, instead of Florida, it's now Starbase. Like, they could do that. That's one of the things about being in orbit. You can just wait until your orbit is able to overfly your launch site to be able to land back there. In the case of the booster, though, because I've seen a lot of people try to mention that, I'm not sure the booster will be able to do that. You need a lot of velocity to be able to get there. If you look at the map, it's it's really way out to fly from Starbase to the Cape. Just to put it in perspective, it's about 1,600 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, or about 1,000 miles away from Starbase to the Cape. Which means you need to go way more, way fast, as in 3,000 meters per second or so of speed. That's even faster than a Falcon 9 when it lands. Currently, today we had the record for the the longest distance for a Falcon 9 booster to land relative to the launch site. That was 700 kilometers today with the Firefly and Hakuto R lander mission that we saw from 39A just a few hours ago. And that was 700 kilometers downrange. You need a huge more amount of velocity to be able to go 1,600 kilometers.
Yeah, and remember that the booster doesn't need to do that. They can build the booster once it's in operational mode. They can build the booster at the launch site. The ship is going to be doing potentially in the future point-to-point launches and recoveries, but the booster probably will never need to do that. Once they have the proven technology, Block 2, Block 3, what have you, once it's operational, Block 5, I don't know, and then they don't need to do that. They'll have 2 or 3 boosters at each launch site, I think 2, and then the ships are just going to go. They're just going to do their thing. They're going to go to Mars. They're going to go take people up to whatever space station takes over, the ISS, Gateway, whatever you want to call it, and then to the moon, back, and then we're doing point-to-point, like I think a 747. That's where they want to go with this. Let's come around back to some of these folks that I want to say thank you. Alpaca God, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. We appreciate that support. Shell BZ, $5 and 555. Just hit the number. Super chat, thank you. Hi, NSF. We love your channel. It would be greatly appreciated if you could put a windsock a little ways up on one of the static cameras. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure up on that tower they have what's called an anemometer. That's the fancy term for wind meter. And I know for a fact they probably have one on the ground. And even though it's 404 meters, They probably have, or 404 feet, excuse me. They probably have one up there as well to just get winds aloft. But again, they're getting weather data from everywhere. I don't know that I would love to see an NSF windsock somewhere on the tower. We'll, EJ, add that to the get DOS to get that done list. And get that windsock up there.
Oh, yep, writing it down now.
Shelby, thank you so much for that. Aaron with a store message. Thank you guys for what you do. NSF crew watched from day one. Aaron, I'm right there with you. I've watched from day one as well. Well, Kevin's right. Kevin's right. You put a windsock on a camera, it's just going to it's going to help move it. So we want steady cameras. Go Flight 7. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gene, maybe we should put, stake a windsock in the ground next to the cameras and then point the camera at said windsock.
Yeah. Okay, add that to the make Kevin do that list. Just, because we're running Kevin Michael Reed to-do list. There's only 14,000 things on there. Let's go ahead and add windsock to that. So when we go out and set the cameras.
Yeah, it's easy.
No problem. A lot of people, remember here in Starbase, Texas, it is after sunrise. Sunrise was 7:18. Are we looking for this weather to burn off a little bit this afternoon? Yes. During our launch stream that's coming up at noon local time, noon central time here at Starbase, Texas, we're going to be checking in with our weather guys. Adam Suker will be giving us some weather. We'll also probably check in with Ryan Caton, who will be in front of his screen telling us about the weather if possible. We'll see what happens. But again, for those of you just joining us, yes, this is what it looks like. This is a live shot from Starbase. And I keep saying it over and over and over. For us, for the camera, for the photographers, this is not ideal. For the engineers who want to collect data from this vehicle after launch, might as well launch it. We have a 1-hour window starting at 4 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. So stay with NSF. We're going to be here all day. We've got Stakeout, and then we have our launch stream starting at noon local. David with a store message. Keep up the great work, NSF. Greetings from South Dakota. Thank you so much. As I said earlier, we run into a lot of people out here, and a lot of them are from South Dakota. And see what David picked up. A shirt. Oh, love the shirts. Gotta love the shirts. Anonymous store message. Thank you so much. Love the coverage. Go Flight 7. I'm right there with you. All right, Alex. Spida, please use UTC wants to know if a single engine simulated deorbit burn fails, which we are expecting to see today, not the failure, but the deorbit burn. Can they try another engine? My simple brain says yes. What does your science brain say?
I think that could be the case, right? They might have some kind of logic that is able to switch to another engine. They have 3, right, that can gimbal and everything, so they can use whichever one of those, even for the landing burn. Because we've seen with SN15, if you remember, they had one engine out on the way up with that ship. And then when it went to do the landing burn, it did so with 2 engines, precisely because that other third engine was out. So even if it were to fail during that burn, for example, they could still do even the landing burn as well. So, yeah.
And that would make sense because they have to. When the ship goes to orbit, and we expect Flight 8 to get into an orbit for, I'm making air fingers, you can't see me, a potential catch. Or Starship recovery, as they like to say, they have to be able to deorbit it, and they've got 6 engines to do that. So I would say they would use the 3 sea level engines to do that, based on the delta V that they have to move. As EJ was saying, that rocket equation, you just got to run the math. So I would assume they use the sea level engines to deorbit because of the angles and so on of the engines, but they have 3 chances. Potentially up to 6 chances, but they have to be able to, because nobody wants a gigantic skyscraper floating around uncontrolled in orbit. It will slowly degrade, of course, but no one wants that. So they have to prove they can do that. We know they've done the on-orbit relight. We're expecting to see another one of those today with one of the amazing cameras on this Block 2 ship. And EJ, I'm going to come to you with some of the differences that they did make on this Block 2 ship. You don't have to do the whole baseball card list, but one of those was they've increased the number of cameras. So we're looking for up to 30 different shots, potentially. You think they'll show us all of them? You think they'll kind of hide a lot of those for the people in Control Center?
I think that a lot of them are for the control center, so SpaceX can get a better idea of what reentry is going to do to this thing. That doesn't mean we won't see more than what we're used to seeing, though, Gene, right? Like, they'll definitely show us more. And, absolute worst case scenario, we see more in a recap video after the launch. Either way, more shots, more cameras, more better. Oh, I've been hanging around with Jack too much. Jeez.
Yeah. Give us some of the rundown. People, this is the first time they've launched the ship. We know it has larger tanks. We know it has more cameras, but give us a quick, tell us some of the other differences in this Block 2 Starship over the Block 1s that we've seen fly.
There's a lot of changes. SpaceX basically redid their entire avionics package for this thing. So software and hardware has been completely redesigned. The power systems on this are designed to handle all the extra power that all these cameras need. So, it might bear some passing resemblance to starships of past, right? But this thing is totally, from the ground up, this thing is totally different under the hood. I mean, some of the visual things right off the bat are the obvious one is that the flaps are moved. The flaps are clocked more towards the leeward side of the vehicle to stay out of the plasma shock so they don't get burned through like what we saw on past starships, right? Burn through on the forward flaps. That's like the biggest striking visual detail. This thing under the hood, there's mountains upon mountains of changes. Like SpaceX did release a kind of a list of things, and like I read through the list, and there's a lot to test here. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Alex, I'm going to come to you. I know you track a lot of the stuff closer than we do, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but we know this flight profile is different than previous flights because of some of those changes. Some of the timings of when we see stage separation, when we see different things. But one of the questions that came in from A Space AA, it's an amazing name. How much will the stage separation speed and altitude decrease due to the heavier second stage? Talk us through some of the differences in this flight profile than previously.
Well, we really don't know. We only have the timeline from SpaceX, and the times have not changed that much, if only by just a few seconds here and there, right? What has changed is now the ship, it burns for about 30 seconds more to get into that sort of, suborbital trajectory. So what we'll see is, of course, the ship will take just 30 seconds more to get in that trajectory. But other than that, the booster timings, for example, have only changed like just a few seconds. I have my spreadsheet for this because I usually write down the times for some of these events. And yeah, for example, main engine cutoff is at the same time, 2 minutes and 32 seconds than on Flight 6. Flight 6 was also at the same time. Stage separation or hot staging, 2:40 for Flight 7, 2:39 for Flight 6, and things like boost back burn and whatnot. Those are also very much within single-digit seconds, essentially, differently. And one of the things that happens is that why does the ship need to burn for a little bit longer? Well, one of the reasons is because it's heavier, so it needs to push itself a little bit for longer to get all of that mass into orbit. But that means it is able to do more stuff because it's carrying more propellant. Now it can burn more. So you trade off, instead of carrying more so the thing is, instead of getting into orbit with more propellant, you can get into orbit with more payload, right? The mass of that payload that it can carry will be translated into more propellant. I don't know if they're going to be doing some kind of dump of propellant in space, but that could be a thing that we might see. They have not really talked about that. It's not on the timeline either. But I will expect that probably there's going to be some leftover propellant on the main tanks, precisely because of that. The mass of the simulator Starlinks is only 10 simulator Starlinks. I don't think it's enough to counteract the amount of propellant that they really will have left over.
And they do that because the translation of our re-entry or deorbit burn, whatever you want to call it, those are from the header tanks, and also the landing burn, right? So they don't need that fuel in the main tanks, so they overboard dump that, and of course that's on a free return trajectory, so that's going to come in. And there on your screen you can see some of those Starlink simulators that are in the vehicle on the right-hand side in Ship 33's payload bay. And everyone, we don't know if there's a camera on that for a float-away shot, but keep your fingers crossed.
We'll figure it out later.
Exactly. That's right. You and I will be talking about it as we're in the coast phase. That is a very SpaceX thing to do, by the way.
Yeah, and one of the things as well is that, one of the things that you should think about this when I say the trade-off between payload and propellant, in the future when they launch tankers, instead of carrying payload, the payload is actually the propellant. The ship will arrive to orbit and it will have leftover propellant. Then it can use that to transfer that to to another tanker, a depot in space or something like that. Like that kind of thing is the kind of thing that we might see in the future, where the payload is the leftover propellant on the tanks. If it can carry like 100 tons to low Earth orbit of payload, then that probably means roughly, it's not a 1-to-1 relationship, but roughly about 100 tons of propellant will be left over on the tanks. So that's 100 tons that they can chuck into another ship.
Yep. And we just passed the no earlier than, that's what net means in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, the 8-hour mark. You're watching the Stakeout here at NSF. I'm Gene Rowley, joined by Alex. As we say, I'm going to try it, Alex. Here we go. Alejandra Alcantara Romera. How did I do?
Not bad. Yeah.
Not bad. I'm at 3.5 stars. It's like a 10% tip, 15% tip. And
definitely
also,
a thumbs up.
All right, I got a thumbs up. And then EJ is joining us as well this morning. So keep those questions coming. These guys are brilliant. And I thought I knew a lot about rocketry until I had the privilege to talk and now work with these guys. And we thank you guys for joining us on this Stakeout stream. Yes, what you're seeing is a live shot from Starbase, Texas for Flight 7. It is foggy. It is overcast. And as I've said many times, this is when you kind of want to launch your rocket from an R&D perspective. It doesn't do much for us who wants to see the rocket, but we will bring you what we can with all of the assets we have in the field here at Starbase. Live today, their launch windows this afternoon, 4 p.m. Central Time. They have a 1-hour launch window, and we'll be here covering all of it for you. And there's all of this is made possible by you guys. So thank you so much. Like Travis, who says, I love that we're able to watch these flight tests because of NSF. It's not because of us, it's because of you, Travis. I'll say that. I will repeat that over and over and over. We are the ones who get to do this because of you. So thank you so much. You'll be watching today from work. Absolutely. Nota Pro, thank you for becoming a Capcom member, upgrading to Capcom. We appreciate you guys so much. Ian, store message, let's go SpaceX. Well done, NSF crew. I did see Apollo 11 land live when you were 6 years old. That's wow. I don't remember what I was doing when I was 6 years old. So good for you. And let's see, Keith, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Go NSF. And thank you, Keith, and everybody else out there watching this morning. Swordfish, a new member. Thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Can't do it without you guys. The shot you're seeing right now, we were out there late last night, walking through the dunes, putting this camera up, and all of it is made possible from the generous support that you guys have, and from the shop and becoming a member. Thank you guys. Jeff Rowe, no relation, maybe. I don't know. Are you related to Mike? Let me know in the chat. Thank you for becoming, for gifting a Red Team membership. That's something that we see as well. A lot of gifting of these memberships. And then thank you for the great coverage. Just another store message. One of the things you'll see on the screen are the store messages from shop.nasaspaceflight.com, and you'll see the Flight 7 patch that you can go out there and pre-order, and then all of the other things that are available. I think I ordered the new Blue Origin launch entry recovery shirts that Adrian and the team were working on, and they're amazing as well. I think I will let Adrian pop in and tell me, I think I was the very first store purchase of that shirt. If it is, I want it signed or something. I want something cool like that. Hey guys, love your videos. Thank you, Chris. We love the fact that you like what we do and that you're helping us get a lot of the patches are amazing. I have, I think, 5 patches. So I'm putting them all on a jacket. So if you see this tall guy who looks lost walking around in a green jacket with a bunch of patches on, stop, say hi. I'd love to meet all of you guys. And again, what you're seeing on the screen, it's mind-boggling when you're here at Starbase. This is my, I think, 5th time here. I came with my wife early on when water tanks were still flying, doing 100-meter hops, and we were waiting for them to put together the first belly flop test flights, ships. And I'll never forget, screaming in my office, no relation. Okay, Jeff, I see that. Go SpaceX. I'm not related to him either, so you and I have that in common. I remember watching NSF when Starhopper was making its historic flight, when SN11, SN15, when SN8 was making its. I remember all of that and watching it live. And, what an amazing time to be alive, to see SpaceX come to a point where we're now at a Block 2 ship for the first time. We potentially could see that launch today. We all see the iterative design. We keep getting asked, Alex and EJ, right? Like, when do you guys think they're going to reuse a ship? And when do you guys think the Block 2 boosters? And guys, we don't know. We're making educated guesses just because we're watching it so close, and all of that comes from your support. Speaking of reuse, EJ, I'm going to come to you on this one. One of the engines on this booster is from Flight 5, the historic milestone catch. And I think it's booster 314. Why do you think, and this is Gene asking the question, why do you think only the one engine is being reused?
Baby steps. Take baby steps. I mean, you don't just reuse one off the bat and then maybe reuse more later. The other thing to take into account, Gene, is that, Booster 12 came back on Flight 5. They did catch it, but a lot of those Raptors were not in the best shape because they got cooked during reentry. So it's possible. I mean, we know that they're going to roll out changes to the booster to fix this problem in the future, but maybe that was the one that is in the best condition. Maybe that's, you're going to give it your best shot, right? This one is the one that, is in the best condition. We're going to use that one. But I mean, it's all about taking baby steps. You don't want to replace too many engines with the reuse. Like, say they tested like 10 like reused boosters. They used 10 Raptors off of 12 and put them on this one, right? What if they break? Then you're out an entire flight test, right? It's important to take those baby steps, right? You don't want to go too far.
So some of the comments in chat, this is very SN11, right? When we saw SN11, for those of you that weren't there watching it, SN11 landed. I will say it landed in a lot of different pieces, and I'll never forget watching one of the NSF cameras, and you start to see the pieces fly down. We're knocking on wood today. That was then. This is now. We've caught a booster. SpaceX has caught a booster. They've soft landed multiple. They've soft landed the ships. Yes, the weather is like, oh no. No, I have all the confidence in the world that if they launch today, if they decide to go today, and they're making those weather calls, they're having these discussions right now as we're talking about it, they're talking about it. So they're going to make some weather calls today, but their window today is 4 o'clock with a 1-hour window. And if they make the call, we're going to be right here bringing you that. Now, you guys just did an amazing pan. I'm talking to the guys in the back room now with these amazing cameras. One of the questions that came up, and you guys might be able to focus on some of the heat shields of Ship 33. There are some of the heat tiles, the TPS. Alex, I'm going to come to you for this one, that are missing, or they look shorter. Some of them are different colors, like silver. At this point, Mr. Green says, why are there some black spots on the heat tiles for Ship 33? I'm going to go out. I'm going to kind of lead into this one. They're still testing this thing. This is the heat shield, even though it's proven to us, watching on screen, can make it through peak heating, etc. But they're still testing this thing, right?
Yeah, they're still doing materials testing as well, where they sort of expose different materials that are attached sort of like underneath of the tiles. Like they have this backup ablative material as well to be able to check out, different, being able to protect the ship in case of a tile failing off. And so they have in different spots of the vehicle, they actually have a lot of tiles missing in different locations on the heat shield, where they have removed the tile and they have exposed that sort of backup material. They also have things like metallic tiles, which they also flew on the last flight as well. But this time around, one of those metallic tiles also has active cooling, which is a new thing for this flight. And so there are many different things. Like they're using these flights, since they are test flights, they are being used to test as many things as they can at once. And so they have a lot of instruments, a lot of sensors on these different spots where they have missing tiles or tiles with different material composition or different backup materials behind the tiles and things like that. They have lots of different things flying on this ship. And of course, that's the same thing that we've seen in the past, like Flight 4, Flight 5, and 6. They all also contain a lot of different material testing, and Flight 7 is no different.
Again, guys, this is R&D. Everything you see on your screen is research and development. These are test vehicles. We get upset when they don't launch. We get upset when the weather isn't playing nice. But the engineers love this stuff. If they could launch the thing underwater, just get the data, I bet you they would probably try it. EJ's laughing in the other room because we know it's true. They want to test this under every single potential variable, because they want to know these tolerances and get them as tight as possible. That's why we saw them start stripping the TPS off the sides for a potential catch. And again, this ship has the potential catch hardware. One of the things for this launch, when we go at 12 o'clock here Central Time locally, one of the things that you're going to be that we have for our X viewers that are watching on X are some exclusive camera angles that you're only going to see on X. I assume this is one of them. Is that the exclusive Jack cam? Is that what we're saying? There's Jack setting stuff up. Look at, he's out there in the morning. Hopefully he's had coffee and potentially bacon, and he's setting up out there in the dunes. It's a great shot watching him do that. Is this one of our exclusive cameras? Kevin, give me.
I believe
yes,
so.
no. Is this one of them? Jack's out there setting it up.
Powered by Starlink.
Powered by Starlink. And you see him, he's got his favorite jacket on, and it is a cold day. And again, the reason they potentially will launch today is to get that data. But if you're watching on X, this is one of those exclusive views that you're only going to get from NSF. So stay right here with us. Like Chris Waters, who with a $20 super chat, who says, "Go!" Whoa! Exclamation mark. Did I do that right, Chris? Is that the way to do it? Thank you so much. Go SpaceX. Go Starship. Yes, absolutely. Go, 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 go. Look at that beautiful ship. One of the things that we saw the other day, EJ, is we were out there and it was windy. I mean, we joined Raptor Side with Chris B the other day, and it did not. The wind was crazy out there. But right in the middle of that, and I know Alex, you're probably going to want to jump on this question too, and just have kind of a conversation here. One of the questions that came to you was, the chopsticks are still closed. And we all thought, well, that's because of the winds. And then right when we said that, they opened the chopsticks into their launch configuration. And we're like, what? So it's a lot more stable than we thought it was. EJ, I'm going to come to you first. Do you remember when that question came in?
Oh, I do. And I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, it's because it's windy.
It's
and
the
then
winds.
then they opened. Because, They were
Because
watching.
SpaceX.
Right? They were watching. That's what happened. They were like, no, those guys are wrong. We gotta show them. Boop, you know.
How cool would that be? They're in mission control and they're listening to Raptor sites. They're like, hey, EJ said we couldn't open the chopsticks. Watch this.
You know, I wouldn't throw it past them, to be honest.
I know. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. But we all thought, hey, this thing needed the winds. Alex, this thing can withstand a lot more than we think, but they do have tolerances. And today, the winds hopefully will be dying down. And again, later on the lunch stream, we're going to talk about the weather a little bit more. But yeah, we were like, well, it's holding it steady. But then they open the chopsticks. It's not holding it steady. Alex, what's holding it steady?
It's just holding steady because it's just clamped to the orbital launch mount. So at the bottom of the rocket, there are 20 clamps holding the booster in place. The booster itself, it's holding the hot staging ring in place, and the hot staging ring also has clamps that hold the ship in place. And so that's pretty much what's happening there. Just like on Falcon 9, for example, when they released the top clamp on the stromback, right, and they released the rocket, and it's still standing there. It's still standing there because it's clamped to the ground through the ground support equipment. So similarly here, there's 20 clamps there at the bottom of the booster, and those are there. And to be fair, though, the booster there are hold down clamps, but they actually don't work as hold downs. So the whole deal with those clamps is that they are more like supports. If you've seen, for example, Soyuz, it's hanging from 4 pedals, right? And so it's very similar in the case that there's these arms that, at the bottom of the booster, there's like this sort of lip, right, where those that booster sits on those arms, and then over the lip there's the hold down that comes in and clamps to the booster. But during the countdown, when once propellant load is already underway, those clamps open. So how does the booster and the rocket just not fall down? Well, because it's still sitting on the pedestals. So again, it's sitting on the pedestals, and then the clamps are above that lip on the bottom of the booster. But when the clamps release, the rocket just doesn't fall through. You need to actually remove the arms themselves, those pedestals, away from the rocket. And that's what happens at T0 when those engines ramp up in power and the booster starts moving up. Those clamps do not hold down the rocket for liftoff. They do before, in the lead up to the liftoff, but not at, like those clamps open several minutes before engine ignition, so they don't need that. The rocket is just sitting there under its own weight. Remember, it's going to be loaded with 5,000 tons of propellant, so it's a lot of weight.
Well, I was going to go there. Jigsaw wants to know how many pounds of fuel will the rocket take? We have an upper stage, we have a lower stage. And if you have questions like that, you can find a lot of that stuff on NASASpaceflight.com. There are articles out there that folks write. Also, you can, follow a lot of the photographers. You can do Instagram. I personally, I do the NSF Facebook page. That's my go-to is Facebook. But there's a ton of information out there. And speaking of tons, how much fuel does this thing take? EJ, I'm going to come to you. Give it your best guess, because if you're wrong, Alex is going to correct you.
Can I? Is there an option to just defer to Alex? Can we do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Guys. It's an inside joke. We were actually talking about this last night, where it's just asking. We know the questions are going to go to Alex, but I did that on purpose because I knew he was going to say, "I'm just going to wait for Alex to answer that one." You did exactly what I knew you would do, EJ. Well done. Alex, how many times it is good. It is good, because I'd have done the same thing. Gee, how much fuel does this take? Be like, that's a great question for Alex. Alex, how many pounds of fuel? 1,000 tons?
5,000 tons.
Oh my. Jigsaw, there's your answer.
About
5,000 tons.
Yeah, it's a bit more than 5,000. I'm rounding down, actually. The booster holds 3,600 tons of propellant. And then the ship, it used to hold 1,200. Now it's 1,500 500 because the tanks got bigger. And so overall it's like 5,100 tons. But I'm rounding down because,
It's a lot.
it's easier to just say 5,000.
5,000. And again, when they get into orbit, if there's anything left in those main tanks, they're going to potentially vent those because the deorbit burn, which it happens from the header tanks, but it's not really a deorbit burn because we're not going to orbit on this flight, potentially later today when they launch. They are using the header tanks. They're just doing another on-orbit relight. But when they get to orbit, all of that comes from the header tanks, as well as the landing burn comes from those header tanks. And we'll see, that potentially there's a lot of venting. And on a previous flight, when they overboard dumped a lot of the oxygen, that was not a good result because we did have a RUD overboard dump of that oxygen, and they talk about it. And again, everything you see is there's the outpost cam again, because I know the rocket is on the right. If the rocket's on the left, we're looking at the shot from the Margaritaville Resort here on South Padre Island, where we are currently. One of the things that
asking for the Imperial unit version of that will be 11.2 million pounds.
The Freedom units.
In Freedom units, yeah. We used that on the latest Starbase update, and people took it to heart. We're just joking.
I know. Yeah, we're joking. We have to do both. I mean, everything they do is in meters and kilograms because you talk about mass to orbit kilograms. So, let's see. We've got so many cameras out there. I don't know what's what you. They probably need to tell me, hey, this is this is that. But we can see some of the clouds hanging a little bit low. 400, maybe 375 feet, 400 feet. But we're hoping as the sun is up now for an hour here at Starbase, Texas, that some of those will burn off. We'll see. We're at 7 hours and 40 minutes toward the opening of their launch window, which is an hour this afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Time here in Texas. And thank you guys. So many people are joining the stream this morning. They're watching. They're hitting that thumbs up button, and we appreciate that you appreciate what we do. One of the things that SpaceX has said on their website is that they want to go for a more aggressive re-entry profile for this ship for testing purposes. EJ, why do you think they want to keep pushing that re-entry profile? One of the earlier questions this morning had to do with when Chris B was on with you guys about the belly flop maneuver on Mars. I don't want to go that deep down the rabbit hole, but Six String Simpleton says the ship's reentry profile is being designed to intentionally stress the structural limits of the flaps and the dynamic pressure. So are they going to, when you think, because there's max Q uphill, there's a max Q downhill, why do they keep pushing this ship? Fewer TPS, higher reentry profile. They want to take it to the breaking point. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I'm very much right with you. They want to push it because they can. Pushing the design now and really, really testing the limits when you're using an iterative design philosophy like what SpaceX is doing is the way to achieve your long-term stakeholder expectations. Now, I'm nerding out, getting into systems engineering here for a second, but
go, my friend.
The way SpaceX is doing it is send it, see what happens. Okay, this is now that can be a little bit costly, like because you're launching a rocket all the time, but you get benefits from rapid iterative designing like this. One of the benefits is that you have a hardware-rich space program, so you can afford to make a lot of changes. You can test a lot. You can fly a lot. That is costly, but you learn a lot too. You really want to always be, with every one of these missions, you really want to be pushing the envelope, well, until Starship kind of, hits its quote-unquote finalized design. And then even still, you're going to get optimizations after that. I mean, Gene, look at Falcon 9. Falcon 9 hasn't had an quote-unquote update since Block 5, right? But SpaceX changes stuff on that all the time. We've seen small things being added. Even Falcon 9, which design per Elon is quote-unquote frozen, right? They're still changing things. So you really want to push the limit right now. You want to push it. You really want to see where the upper limits of this vehicle are right now because, well, you can. They have the starships. They have a huge factory you could see it on the screen in the lower left corner there. They have this huge factory. They could build all these starships. You're hardware rich. Send it, baby. Let's go.
Send it. Full send. That's what we want. There's a great shot of the Star Factory. And if you've been watching NSF, you have seen that thing build from 3 or 4 tenths to what it is today, and we're expecting it to expand. Now, in the lower right-hand corner, this is where we normally see the roadblock, which we expect to come up here in about 30 minutes. And, behind the scenes, Jack is out there on the dunes. He's talking to folks, and yes, it is looking very good for a 9 a.m. Central Time roadblock to go popping up there. So we should see that here pretty soon. And again, they'll start to clear the beach and so on. As we come up, the NSF launch stream is coming up at noon local time here in Starbase, Texas. And the launch window opens at 4 p.m. So stay tuned, stay right there, and keep those questions coming at NASASpaceflight. I've got Alex, I've got EJ for the next couple of hour and a half, and then we're going to switch over, talk to Adrian, and then Ryan Weber's going to join us a little bit later on as well. A lot of people to thank for us to be here. We've got people coming in, the whole NSF team. The guys in Florida, the NSF team in Florida, great job last night. They've got their own work to do. And there's a whole crew of people here from NSF, obviously for this Flight 7 test, which we hope to see this afternoon. And we're going to be making weather calls. SpaceX is going to be talking about that. They're going to be making weather calls as we go through the days, and we'll keep you up to date on that. Food, please. Thank you so much for becoming a Red Team member. Amazing support from the community. We're passing so many people joining. The chat is going by. If I connected to a fan, my hair would be blowing. It's crazy. Anonymous store message. Thank you guys so much for what you do. Some of the best Starship coverage around. I would agree. I know it sounds a little self-serving, but for years and years and years, I was on that side watching. I totally agree. NSF is the place to be. Kevin, looking forward to a catch. Yeah, let's talk about the catch a little bit, because when I was here for Flight 6, they had some issues with the tower communicating with the booster coming back, and they diverted to the Gulf of Mexico. And a lot of people were like, oh no, it broke, that sucks, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. I disagree. EJ, you and I can talk about this from an engineering standpoint. It performed exactly as intended, and they have all these safety checks, and if one of them passes that tolerance, they're going to divert to their backup plan. So when people say it didn't work, EJ, this is where you come in. I disagree. I said that thing worked absolutely as intended. What say you?
Well, the booster itself, yeah, the booster physically as, its own entity worked great. It did exactly what it was supposed to do from a safety perspective. And we know the FAA is just kind of sitting back there going, this is very safe. From a safety perspective, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Yep. I mean, as far as I can tell, and Chad or Alex, correct me if I'm wrong here, they had some trouble. The booster didn't have any problems. There was some problems with Mechazilla and the booster interfacing to it and trying to find it. If the booster can't find the catch tower, it's not going to get caught. So the booster said, well, can't see it. Ocean time. Which means it performed exactly as intended. And that's the kind of stuff that's gonna, just gotta bring this in here. That's the kind of stuff that's going to, show the FAA, right, empirically that this is a safe thing and will get you more launch licenses in the future, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff they're like, oh, hey, that is pretty safe. All right, cool.
And if people are going to ride it, we need those safety systems to say, hey, if it does divert, then it can safely touch down. It can safely do its thing. Now, of course, I'm talking about the ship, not the booster. We're looking for a booster catch today. All of us have our fingers crossed that thing comes back, because the more they catch it, the better they get at catching it. And that is one of those milestones. We talked about it yesterday. Meeting people on the beach, at lunch, at dinner, everybody wants to talk about it, and so do we. We do not get sick of talking about this thing. And one of the things we always say is the more they do a thing, the better they get at doing the thing. It's like you want to throw a 100 mile an hour fastball, you better be throwing, fastballs. If you want to be a better swimmer, swim. If you want to be a better runner, run, right? We say that all the time. Well, that's what these guys are doing. Now, there's the shot. Finally, we get that shot. You can just see the base from Margaritaville Resort here on South Padre Island. You can just start to see the base of that. This is the hotel cam that we have, and hopefully we'll see that slowly rise up as the day warms up today, as we get closer to our 4 p.m. local time window. But back to what we were saying, the more they do a thing, the better they get at that thing. And the more they catch or the more they divert, the safety system and that communication between the ship and the tower gets better and better and better every single time. And they have post-landing meetings, post-launch meetings to make sure that everything they do gets better over time, just like we do here. All right. I'm going to mess this name up. I apologize. Keep the questions coming in at NASASpaceflight. We will try to get to as many of them as we can, and I'm trying to get down as fast as I can to some of the more recent questions. But Dhruv Pankanya, I think, nailed it first time out of the gate, right? Wants to know, Alex, this is coming to you. As we know that there's 25% increase in fuel volume in the new V2 ship, is there any increase in prop load times compared to previous flights? Now, we have some of the timelines, but we saw during the wet dress rehearsal, yes, they're loading more propellant into the ships. Did we see a large variance in time, load times, and what do we expect today, Alex?
Not at all. It's actually shorter times for the ship. For Flight 6, and this is interesting because they also switched the moments that, like on Flight 6, the ship fuel load will begin first, and then the liquid oxygen load will begin like 30 seconds after that. And that was at 49 minutes to launch. So 49:50 for the fuel load and 49:21 for the liquid oxygen load on the ship. For today's launch, that begins first with the liquid oxygen instead of the fuel at T-minus 45 minutes and 54 seconds. And then at T-minus 43 minutes, that'll be the ship fuel load. So it's actually shorter time than on Flight 6, even though it carries 300 tons more of propellant.
And as that goes back to what we were saying earlier, every time they do a thing, they want to do it faster, they want to do it more reliably, they want to do it better, and that's why we're looking for eventually a Block 2 booster to come up. We've seen the Block 1 ships, now we've got the first Block 2 flight today here on Flight 7, and we're going to see some Block 3s in the future as we get there, maybe Block 4, Block 5, I mean, who knows? I started to go a little Squidward there, not Squidward. What's the one you do, EJ? I don't know. We'll see in the future.
Zoidberg, yeah.
Zoidberg.
Yes,
Oh,
very
gosh.
good.
By the way, the reason I went to a different cartoon is because we've been doing character voices since we saw each other. We've been joking about cartoons and voices. We've been doing all kinds of stuff. And as Jamie says in a store message, sure, infinity be it. Let me do it. To infinity and beyond. Looking forward to seeing the 7th launch. Thanks for the awesome coverage. Well, thank you for going out to the store, picking up and pre-ordering the Flight 7 patch at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Jamie, thank you. You're going to love it. Put it on a jacket. Wear it here to Starbase. We can't wait to meet you. Jirwa, thank you so much for gifting 50 Red Team memberships. If you are one of the recipients of those, please jump in the chat, say thank you, and welcome aboard here at NSF. We love having you here. Fondest regards to the hosts and the production crew. Heart, let's get a clean set of catches, fam. Exactly, Clinton. I agree with you. I can't say enough about the people in the background that push the buttons, that bring you these amazing camera shots. There's so much work that goes into it. We on this side of the camera have the easy job. We get to talk about this because we would be talking about it whether we were on stream or not. EJ and Alex can attest to this. We just have conversations because we're rocket nerds like you guys. But there's so many people that you don't see, that you don't hear from, that are walking among the dunes and setting up these cameras for shots like this, that are pushing the buttons and making the overlays and the graphics and so on. And believe me, I give the warmest and biggest shout out to guys in the background, to the entire team that are doing the work in the background to make it possible for us to bring this kind of coverage live from Starbase, Texas.
I mean, Gene, I'm down here. This is the first time I've been down here, so I've been seeing firsthand what these guys are doing. From the hardware perspective, just driving out there, making that long drive down Highway 4, and just slaving over this equipment. I'm telling you guys, Boca Chica is not easy on equipment. It is not easy on the equipment. It is a very harsh environment for vehicles. It's a harsh environment for the cameras, everything that has to go into these cameras. I mean, if you're not using something that's corrosion resistant out there, it will rust to nothing in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It gave me a very, very new and profound respect for what, don't tell him this. It gave me a profound respect for what Jack does out here all the time. I mean, we had the
texting Jack that right now.
No. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. Don't give him credit. That'll go to his head. Don't do that. No, I seriously.
That's very easy.
Yeah. I seriously have the utmost amount of respect for what they do here. It is a lot of work and a lot of time. Yeah.
And we talk about it look, Jack has the best job in the world. We all want it. I don't want to do that amount of work. I think he has the best job in the world, to be honest with you.
Are you
There's
looking
the
at that?
roadblock. Yeah, they're starting to set up the roadblock. It's 8:35 local time, Central Time here in Starbase, Texas. They're just now starting to set it up. That roadblock, in fact, just so you know, that car right there, passing.
It can still go through.
Yeah, it can still go through. I know exactly who that is, going out to help Jack. I know exactly who that last vehicle was. Oh no, Cybertruck. That's a running joke here at Starbase. So they set it up early, but the roadblock's supposed to go at 9 o'clock. Go ahead, Alex.
Exactly, because I was actually going to deal with that, because you see vehicles still passing by. That car on the road is just there, parked, sort of saying, hey, in about 20 minutes from now, we're going to start closing the road. Just keep that in mind. It's sort of just, kind of giving a message to people on the road that it's still not closed. You can still go by, but make sure to think about, the fact that in 20 minutes it's going to be closing.
Yeah. Guys are going out there early to check cameras. They're going out there to do the last minute changes because, like Alex said, in 20 minutes, you're not going to be able to get past. They'll have the road entirely blocked as they get further on. That's a great shot. I love the split screens who watch that. Tyler says, I deliver materials to various contractors at Starbase. Seeing the progress is always a happy sight. I'm with you, and thank you for that $10 super chat. Your support is greatly. Every single thumbs up, every like, share, comment, the whole 9 yards, it's greatly appreciated. And even Jack is out there in the dunes. Jack's appreciative of it as well. He wouldn't be out there with his orange jacket if he didn't. We love what we do. Let's see. This is a great question. Oh my gosh, everybody, we get to think about the future. Taryn wants to know which planets slash it's too early in the morning, more coffee, celestial bodies or regions do you think Starship will be visiting in the future? A starship designed for Venus, perhaps. And I'm going to go to EJ first, but Alex, I'm going to let you think about this one. EJ, do you think we're going to see variants of Starship based on the missions to different celestial bodies? And if so, where are we going?
We already have a variant. We have the HLS variant. There you go. That's one for the moon. That's definitely different than the one that's going to go to Mars. Yeah. Now, in terms of where it's going to go in the future, maybe this is just
sky's the limit,
right? Yeah, it's not though, right? It's not though, right? Maybe this is just me personally, but the belt. Go out to the belt. Go to the belt. Get those resources. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe not. I know that's not a planet, or a celestial body or a moon, but there's a lot of resources out there that we could go get And if you have a ship like Starship or a system like Starship, that's definitely viable.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, what do you think? What planets, celestial bodies, or regions do you think we'll be going to with Starship?
Yeah, you know what I will love? You know how these clickbait channels that are probably AI generated or whatever that are always like game over, Starship, nuclear engine, and things like that. That
Yeah.
will be amazing, right? Like if it were to become real, those clickbait videos and everything, then Starship, nuclear power, all the way to I don't know Pluto or whatever. Like carry it all the way out. Like just go out there. I wouldn't be able to tell. Like, there's many places that I would love for not just SpaceX and Starship itself, but other companies as well, and many like we just need to get out there and get as many spacecraft as we can, and yeah, just do all the things.
Absolutely. And you and I have had this conversation, and I know Adrian has as well. So I'm going to post it. EJ, I can't wait to ride Starship. I would ride it. Let's go to the moon. Let's go to Mars. I don't care. Put it to me. Let's go. Give me a seat. Strap me in. Elon, if you're listening, and I know you are, email me, text me. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Put me on the mission. I want to go tomorrow. Alex, you're not so ready to go, are you?
Oh yeah, I like my feet on the ground. I even have the jiggles, I guess, when I go on a flight on an airplane. It's like when it takes off, when you're about to land as well, it's like right. I don't like flying in general.
EJ, what about you? Oh, I'm in.
Let's go.
Yeah, no. I'm in. Don't tell my wife. I'm in.
EJ and I are ready to do, and I know Jack's the same way. We talked to Jack about it. He's like, let's go. We want to do the first NSF live stream from the moon and Mars. Elon, I know you're listening. And thank you for what you do, Elon. Keep it up. We love you. We love you. Keep going. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about some weather. Let's switch gears because I know we've had some new people join, and thank you guys for joining and hitting that thumbs up button. The weather goes away. Here you go. Talk about clickbait. The weather goes away when you hit the thumbs up button. I heard that. Right, guys? Is the fog going to be a problem? And Alex, I'll come to you first. Is the fog going to be a problem? Are the clouds going to be a problem? SpaceXer wants to know, is fog an issue for this launch?
Well, it shouldn't, right? We've seen SpaceX rockets launched on fog conditions in the past. I mean, just look at Vandenberg. Actually, yesterday there was a flight from Vandenberg, and it was, strangely clear. That was a very rare clear day at Vandenberg. But yeah, we've seen that all the time, right? A little bit of fog here and there, or even thick fog shouldn't really be a problem. We've seen that as well with Starship. Again, SN11, we mentioned that earlier today, right? That they've launched on foggy weather some of these Starship vehicles. I think also Flight 4 also launched like on a bank of clouds as well, which was quite horrible for our views, but it still launched, it still did the thing, and that's one of the things, right? There are certain things that might prohibit a good look view of the launch, but still not prohibit, that launch in particular. Like, it still allows that launch to happen. So, yes, it's unfortunate, but, they may just try. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and they're making weather calls. They're discussing the weather. At this point, the real factor is lightning and winds for this vehicle. And of the two, I would say at this point today, speaking specifically for today, the winds are going to be what they're looking at, both on the ground and also aloft. But once the vehicle starts going, EJ, the winds become less and less a factor as the vehicle's on the way uphill. But when that booster's coming back and it starts slowing down, the winds on the ground are the factor, right? We don't want that booster dancing around, potentially coming in for a catch.
No, I don't think a crosswind for a booster catch would be the wisest decision, Gene. To be honest with you, but you were talking about like it's not like a big deal going up. It kind of is. You really gotta. It's not like the speed of the wind, right? And this crosswind stuff applies to landing too, for sure. It's not necessarily the speed of the wind. It is the change in wind speed over altitude. That's called vertical wind shear. And that applies to landing just as much as it applies to launch. But yeah, you definitely don't want the wind blowing sideways, like a ground level wind blowing sideways when you try to bring that booster in. That's a lot. I mean, Raptor probably could compensate, but probably could compensate is not the best, not improving your odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And as you can see in the upper right-hand corner there, more cars are leaving than are coming in. The vehicle there is Cameron County Sheriff, more than likely, and they're letting people know that here in about 15 minutes, they are going to be shutting that road down at that point, and then they'll start the clearing process of the beach and the dunes and the pad, and they verify everything, and they'll have some drone operations, more than likely, checking out everything as we get closer to launch. And they are making those weather calls. You can see the clouds, obviously. You can see the fog. But it is slowly clearing up from our perspective. Our cameras out there are going to cover everything. We have multiple camera angles. And from the hotel here at Margaritaville Resort in South Padre Island, it is starting to clear. In fact, I think I can hear the drone in the background taking off for some of those clearing flights. It is starting to slowly clear. Earlier this morning, it was just a fog bank. And then just a few minutes ago, we went to the hotel cam, and you could kind of see the base of the launch towers there. And again, everything you see is brought to you by you. I mean, I don't know how other way to say that. Everything you guys do makes it possible for us to be here. Like Valia, thank you so much for the storm message. Thanks for the coverage. Professional, extremely knowledgeable, and also entertaining. If I had to say professional would be Chris B, knowledgeable is Alex and EJ, entertaining, also Alex and EJ, professional, also Chris B. So I'm not taking any of that coverage, but thank you guys. Keep those questions coming. I'm trying to get to them at NASASpaceflight. Enzia Rosie, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Super Energy, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. You guys are awesome. Astro Knucklehead, we love you. $10 Canadian super chat. Gene, game time. Yes, it is. And he wants me to do my Don LaFontaine. Don LaFontaine and I had the same agent in LA, and he was an amazing guy. I'll give you one story. They used to pick him up and drive him to the studio because he didn't drive. So they had to send a car for him every time. And I was like, man, someday I'm going to get to the level where they can just send a car for me. He was a really amazing guy. He was the in the world guy, in a world, one man, one story. It was the quintessential movie trailer guy. And it was fun to work with him. Thank you for that super chat. Ross, let's see. I've probably missed this. What are our thoughts about the Pez dispenser? Seems like it was just being set up for Starlink. Well, when we see these deployments, I'm going to go to Alex for this one. When we potentially, I've got to be careful here. When we potentially see these deployments, how many Starlink V3s can the quote-unquote Pez dispenser, the deployment mechanism inside V2, how many Starlink V3s can Starship carry? I know I'm putting you on the spot for this one, but you probably have the answer.
Well, we've seen the Pez dispenser, right? And the Pez dispenser has these notches, right, on it. Mm-hmm. And we know that it can hold at least 54 of these Starlink V3 satellites. And so that is a lot of satellites. And yes, the Pez dispenser is the whole reason for that is for Starlink. It's just for Starlink operations, of course. For Moon to Mars, if you think about it, you can kind of use some of the lessons learned, because the Pez dispenser is this whole stack of satellites, right? And so you need a mechanism that can lift up the Starlinks as you keep loading them, and then as you keep unloading them and deploying them in orbit, you need to deploy them and then lower them down, which is kind of like an elevator, if you know my drift, right? Like, kind of need an elevator for getting people on the ground on the Moon of Mars, and they actually have an elevator already in the works for the human landing system for NASA, for that Starship that's going to be landing humans back on the Moon since the Apollo program. And so that some kind of learning, I guess, for that. But of course, the pest dispenser is just for Starlink. It is not for any other kind of payload, unless they kind of shape it like Starlink, I guess. You could, in theory, if you have your own rocket company or satellite company or whatever, you could say, hey, let's just build satellites that are flat packed, just like Starlink, and it has also the same connections. But it's the same thing that we see for Falcon, right? Starlink satellite launches on Falcon 9 also have hardware payload deployment systems just dedicated for Starlink. But other missions for regular payloads, like we saw with Firefly and the Hakuto R lander, right? It had this sort of canister custom made for that mission. So we're probably going to see something similar with Starship, where we may see starships that are custom made with payload deployment systems that are just for a single type of mission, and then they may be able to switch around things inside of the nose cone to adapt another kind of payload, right? Like, that's going to be the cool part of Starship's program, where we're going to see different configurations, different types of payloads being flown. We're still some years away from that. Let's give them, step by step, one step at a time. Let's get first Starlinks up there. Then we'll see about the other payloads.
And just for scale, how many bananas is 54 Starlink V3s? Matt wants to know in chat.
A lot of bananas.
A lot of bananas. That's right. Thomas, thank you so much. Jumped out on the store. Good luck, Flight 7. We don't know if it's going to go today. They are making some weather calls. I mean, you could see on your screen, we've been talking about weather a lot. So for those of you just joining us, we're coming up on no earlier than our launch window, 4 p.m., 7 hours. We're coming up on that. We're going to be joined by Adrian Bile and also Ryan Weber here at the top of the hour, and we'll bring them in just a bit. They are making weather calls, guys. They're looking at the weather today. From a scientific standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, launching today would give them data for potentially inclement weather launches and recoveries. For us, we want to see the rocket. We're space nerds. We want to see. I mean, this shot right here is from the outpost. And you can see this shot live. You go to the outpost, you can actually see it. But it does look like things are coming in. And if the weather call is made, they're going to recycle. They're going to have another launch attempt. Rocketry does this. This is just one of the things that we have to be ready for when there is weather. Whether they launch, it's the other weather, no pun intended. Sawyer's not here. We'll leave the puns to him. Whether or not they launch today is completely up to SpaceX. We have no idea. I know we would love to see the rocket in clear skies, but again, this is all research and development. We'll see what they say. If we do go to our launch stream today, we will have Adam Suker, who I know is in chat here on Stakeout. They'll be talking about it. We'll bring Adam in to talk about the weather. That shot right there lets you know that we do have some precipitation starting. This is what it looks like in Starbase right now. Thank you for getting that patch, by the way, Thomas. I pre-ordered mine from shop.nasaspaceflight.com as well. Astro95 Media, $10 super chat. Thank you. Got the NSF patch sitting here on my desk. Well, I know you're probably talking about Flight 6 or previous, because I know we're pre-ordering Flight 7. Godspeed, Flight 7. Enjoy the extra for us in Houston. Yeah, that's where I stay when I come out here. I stop in Houston overnight and then come in. So thank you so much for that. Arthur, sadly can't follow the journey of Flight 7. Got to work the night shift. Well, let's see. Let's see what the weather says. Well, hold on, Arthur. They're going to make a weather call. We'll bring it to you as soon as we have something that we know we can do as well. Let's see. Question. Can the moons of Mars, this is a good one. EGEM, coming to you from your KSP knowledge. Let's see. Yeah. Jan, I'm going to try this. Labinge wants to know, we talk about, and I'm going to add to your question, Jan. Starship is designed to go interplanetary. We want it. Like they're designing it to go to Mars and the moon and the outer planets, etc. But we rarely talk about the return flight. Jan brings up a great question. Can the moons of Mars be used as part of a reverse gravity assist to either slow down the spacecraft, I assume they mean on the way to Mars, but also, can it be used for a little push away? I'm going to let you just take this one and run with it.
Well, yeah, of course you could, but see the problem is, so you're talking about Phobos and Deimos, which are Mars's moons. You can, but the thing is that Phobos and Deimos don't have that much gravitational pull. They're actually they're certainly not like our moon. That's for sure. You could absolutely do that, but the thing is that it would be a negligible amount of velocity change. You might be able to use it to capture, maybe, but the phasing would have to be like perfect. Not saying that couldn't be done, but yeah, you can generally use moons to, not planets, you can use moons to do a retrograde gravity assist, and you could use them to capture. Actually, Gene, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the payloads that we saw launch on Falcon 9 last night, the Hakuto RM2, the iSpace's lander, is actually going to do that. It'll do a ballistic capture and capture the moon retrograde, if I'm remembering correctly. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to keep track of all the missions that have happened this week, on top of this, this big water tank that we're watching right now. And there's also other rockets too out at the Cape. Like, there's a lot to keep track of. So I'm pretty sure that is what Hakuto R is doing. But yeah, sure, man, you could absolutely do it. It just would be negligible. It'd probably be easier to use a thruster.
Yeah, Phobos and Deimos are small. They're like you said, they're small. You're going to get a little bit, but you're not going to get a whole lot of delta V out of anything like that. Let's see. Curious, what flight do you think, Alex? I'll come to you for this one. Last question before we'll swap up. We got about 5 minutes. I'm so curious, what flight do you think SpaceX will attempt catching both ship and booster? That's a question from Gordon. And of course, you can ask questions at NASASpaceflight in the chat. Be sure to do that. Alex, what do you think? I mean, they know we're talking about Flight 8. You think it's going to happen, Flight 8?
I mean, if Flight 7 is successful on that ship landing, right? Elon said, "Hey, we may do Flight 8 with a ship catch," and in such a case, they will just catch the booster, and then a day later or so, they may go for the catch on the ship. Remember, the ship, the orbit needs to be aligned with the landing zone with the Starbase, and so of course they need that to happen, and therefore you need to wait, and in that time, they can just clear the booster off the launch pad and get it on a transport stand and sort of move it to the side. It doesn't even need to roll back to the production site, just move it to the side on the launch site and just clear the area for the ship to be able to land on the chopsticks. And we saw that with Booster 12, right? With Booster 12, it went down on the orbital launch mount within hours of the catch. And then it is true that it took a bit longer to be able to put it on a transport stand, but that was just down to them safing the booster and getting, all the things done. Like, it was just things that they could just optimize in the future. And in fact, that was something that they said that was going to be optimized for Flight 6. Unfortunately, they did not catch the ship on Flight 6, but if they do on Flight 7, then we might see that happening, right? That quicker safing and drain of the propellant after touchdown, after landing.
Same question, EJ. I'm going to come to you. We know Flight 8, as Alex just said. Going forward, I mean, is catching a ship and a booster just going to become, I hate to say this, but routine?
Gene, I want it to become routine. I want it to be like Falcon 9 launches. I think that's, if NSF ends up becoming a quote-unquote plane watching stream, but with spaceships, I'll consider our job here successful. And that's I want that to happen. I don't know if that's bad or good, but I mean, okay, like, here's the thing. I don't know about you guys, and you can call me, okay, EJ's a little weird. I mean, you're not wrong, but if I'm on an airliner and, the airliner's out on the runway, they have clearance to go, right? And you hear those turbines spool on the airliner. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, you know, I still get a little fired up, man. I'm not gonna lie. Rockets are never gonna be boring for me. So, you know, if it gets to be routine, that just means I get to cover more rocket launches. Is that bad? I don't know. You tell me.
No, we never want more rockets, more better. That's I want that on a T-shirt because I don't. This never gets old. We'll stay up and watch. We'll stay up and broadcast during Starlink missions, and I would say those have become routine. I mean, even SpaceX is like, "Hey guys, we're deploying another 48 Starlinks. Hey, the booster landed. Have a great night." I mean, it's just that's just how it's going. But for us, it's like, caught another one, yeah, you know, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
let's go.
Get gung-ho about it, man.
That's what's in our head. Now, I'm not taking requests, okay? I just want to say, we'll do this in a minute. I'm not taking requests, but Gort from Ort says, Gene, please say, today's a good day to die in Klingon. I'm not taking requests, guys, but here you go. Heglumekak Jajvam. That is today's a good day to die in Klingon. Alex, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you joining with your immense knowledge, and I know go get some sleep. It's been a long couple of days. We're going to see you on the launch stream later. I appreciate you joining us for the Stakeout this morning.
It's been a pleasure, and of course, if everything keeps being on track, I'll be also on the launch stream with you.
Yeah, and we'll see. They're making a weather call, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to bring Adam Suka in to talk about the weather in just a second. After I thank the one and only EJ. Thank you, man. It's been so much fun hanging out with you, and we got a lot more to do on this launch stream because you're one of the co-hosts with me.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much for having me. Being on here is a privilege, and I don't take it lightly. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it.
I love stakeouts. This is my first stakeout, and I'm telling you, I'm having the time of my life right now. It's a lot of fun talking rockets with people that know a lot more than me. I'm learning, okay? If you're watching the screen, and I know you are, because we all are, you can see the precipitation. You can see the clouds in the background. SpaceX is talking about weather. So I'm going to bring in some folks to join us for this hour forward of the Stakeout. I want to bring Adrian Bile. That's a name everybody knows. Adrian, I want to bring you in. Thank you so much for joining the Stakeout. I'm just going to point a question to you. I know I keep interrupting you. I'm going to put a question to you. What does that look like to you? This with the rain.
Yeah, I'm actually more worried about a view on the highway. Can we go back to that here a bit?
Yeah, the roadblock.
The roadblock is worrying me a bit because are they removing barriers?
So that's construction. So pay no attention to those bollards. We drove out there several times yesterday. They're actually cutting a trench along the road.
Yeah, we'll see. That's it's certainly an interesting situation. On your overall question, I mean, we have seen if there's one company that finds magically a gap in absolutely crazy weather, it's this company. We have seen that in the past, although there are limits that even SpaceX will have to abide to. So we'll see how the next few hours develop. I bet you they have like several weather checks on the way, and they probably check it every time. And there you go, Ryan.
Yeah, and the voice you heard in the background is Ryan Weber.
I was going to jump in. Hi, everyone. From Cameron County Judge.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No. Don't do
Don't
it.
say it.
Don't say it?
No.
Say it.
Okay,
say
we
it.
received notice that the 7th Starship launch has been postponed until tomorrow, Thursday, January 16th. Isabella Park boat ramp will be open today.
Yeah, just to put
that police car leaving the roadblock is most likely the fact that the roadblock is no longer in place.
That's
are waiting on official confirmation from SpaceX themselves.
But just to put into context, this person here talking is the Cameron County judge. That is that person that issues the road closures.
Yeah.
And we see a car departing from the roadblock. This is.
And let's talk about why. Let's bring in NSF's Adam Suker. Adam, are you with us? Are you ready to talk about? I don't think so. We'll see if we can get Adam to talk about the weather. But I mean, all you got to do is look at the camera, guys. Right. So
I mean,
it's
it has been coming.
Yeah, and it has been, and this is what rocket launches do. We have to be within tolerance. They have to. They don't want to just say, "Hey, it's raining. Let's just launch this thing." No, they're careful. They want to get as much data as possible. That's really why they're going to slip this one. Apparently, we're waiting for something official. Slip it to the right, and just to see the weather, the clouds come in. It's not hard to say why. And I really want to talk to Adam Suker. Let's bring Adam Suker into the conversation to talk about weather. He watches weather for NSF. You're going to hear him on the lunch stream tomorrow, but you're going to hear him right now. Adam, what are you hearing from weather-wise more than what we can see on our screen?
So weather-wise, basically, we'll start off with viewing conditions. Obviously, you can tell today's not a great day there. Low visibility, low cloud. Not a particular fun day that we'd want to see a rocket go, up into the clouds and can't really see much besides their camera views. But also, I mean, there is a little bit of low-level wind shear. There is some clouds, low-level, some cumulus clouds that they have to be concerned about too. And so when you look at all of that in comparison, today's just not that great of a weather day. But now when you look at tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, we're actually going to see improvement. We're not going to have these rain showers around. We will actually see the clouds start thinning. There could be still some high passing high clouds, but huge improvement. And the low level wind shear actually comes down even more tomorrow. So I've kind of talked about it on Twitter and stuff too, about that weather just never really looked that good for Thursday. And actually majority this week just hasn't looked good, before Thursday. But Thursday, there's a lot of room for improvement. By 4 p.m. Thursday afternoon, I think visibility is going to be much, much better. Clouds will be thinner. The wind shear will be a lot lower. So to me, Thursday's a great weather day. If I had to pick a day to launch, that would be my day. And Friday is really not I haven't looked real deep into Friday. Friday doesn't look too bad either, but I feel like Thursday's really the better day weather-wise, wanting to do a launch. And for the viewers, anybody that's standing on the ground, it's going to be much more viewable. Now, in the morning, there will still be some low clouds, but a lot of that should start burning off by the afternoon. So don't let it disregard you too much, in the morning. So
Yeah, Adam, thank you so much for that. Keep an eye on the skies for us. Adrian, let's come to you a little bit. We are still taking your questions. We're still talking. We're going to thank some folks here in a little bit. But I want to talk to you about, the coverage that NSF is bringing to folks. Yeah, the weather sucks, and it's just part of doing what we do and part of what SpaceX does. What are we looking forward to from an NSF coverage standpoint going forward? Adrian, I think if you're answering that question, you gotta unmute your mic.
It has been a long day.
Come on, new guy, take a lap.
Of course, the main thing we will do is wait for the launch provider to give us guidance on what is happening. Yes, the Cameron County judge has said for scrub to tomorrow. However, the final decision on anything, of course, is the launch provider with SpaceX itself. So we will wait for that to announce our full planning of the schedule. However, I'm looking at the back channel to my dearest Kevin Micah Reed here. Probably we are looking at similar situations on any given launch day. We would probably do a stakeout again. We would probably do a launch. We'll probably do a launch stream if Starship launches.
Yeah, probably.
So if SpaceX confirms any given day, we will go live for that day for a stakeout and for a launch.
Yeah. And again,
don't forget.
Yep.
we have a new Glenn tonight.
Oh, rockets, more better. Yeah.
Yep.
And of course we have when we're not there you go. You're looking at all of the launches we have coming up. Obviously, Starbase Live is kind of where I live. When we're not streaming live, I'm on Starbase Live. I'm always listening. We're talking about things. But yeah, there is another rocket launching. Let me channel my EJ. There's another rocket launching. How did I do?
I would.
Instead of passing EJ.
Yep.
Lots of people to thank, by the way. Lots of people to say thank you to today. Alexandria wishes they were here. Yes, go Starship tomorrow, potentially. Yes, we wish you were here as well. Thomas had to realize earlier I have the perfect use for the Starship patches. Yes, put them on a jacket. Greetings from Finland. Thank you so much for watching. Thomas, thank you. We love our international audience, and we couldn't do this without you guys. Even though we're getting word that, yes, they are looking to move. We're waiting for something official from SpaceX. We're going to stay here and bring you the latest information. Say thank you to everybody. It does look like the road is clearing up a little bit. Matthias, go ahead.
I have something else to add here. The fact that they have just announced a road closure for between the production site at Massey's for today between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m.
That's a pretty good indication that they don't plan on launching, because that entire stretch of highway would need to be clear, because it's part of some of that's part of the evac zone. So that's going to be Ship 34 to Massey's. So yeah.
Adrian, what does it take for SpaceX to, as we say, recycle? They haven't really started doing anything from a propellant perspective, et cetera. Like, what are they doing from a company perspective for that recycle that we pretty much know is coming?
Actually, not that much, because they didn't do that much yet. They basically, this decision point here totally makes sense from them, because this is the decision point where they would start to do things. They have cleared some areas. They have conducted media duties and let media place cameras. But that's about all they did so far. Now, what would have been next is the tank farm conditioning. It's getting really something flowing on that side, and they, from what we can tell, they just hold it before that. So this was probably some sort of decision point to exactly prevent that, to give them a better chance tomorrow, to give them a better chance on Friday, to not waste any nitrogen to chill down. So yeah, this very much makes sense.
Yeah, Ryan, let me come to you from a rocket perspective. It's been sitting there for days. There's, one more day isn't really going to change that much. We're hoping that the weather clears up, but from a rocket perspective, we're just waiting for the go signal, right?
Yeah, they've had these things stacked since, when did they stack this thing? Stacked it a couple of days ago. And then what's been odd is they've left the arms open this long. I think the most they've ever done that is like a solid day. It's been almost a day and a half. It'll be coming up on 2 days later today, that they've just left these arms open, which is unusual, but I mean, it's not like the vehicle can't handle it, as we can see, but there shouldn't be anything wrong with just leaving these things stacked on the pad, just waiting to get filled with propellant and launch. And as Adrian was saying, they haven't loaded anything. They haven't used the tank farm at all, so everything's still topped off. Everything should still be ready to go, and they have the notices still in place, so no TAMs, no MARS. Their advisories are still in place. They've got road closures for the next 2 days. So they are set up for their backup windows for whatever they want to use them for.
And you mentioned road closures, and we go to Cameron County for those. The NOTMARs and the NOTAMs, they're coming out from the various agencies. And as you said, are those extendable? Do they just extend them into the next day? Because I know notice-to-air missions is something that I've dealt with, and they come out like, you got to be Johnny on the spot watching these NOTAMs come out. Do they already have them for Thursday and Friday?
Look at that screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
They
there we
have
go.
I was gonna say they have a TFR for tomorrow. I'm trying to remember if they have a TFR for Friday. I think they have a TFR for the next 2 days, if I remember correctly. They had 3 in a row, and then they've got note TAMs and note Mars. They literally have everything they need for the next 2 days, just to kind of say that whether it's note TAMs, note Mars, road closures, TFRs, they've got it to cover the next 2 days. Just to posit the whole thing. After that becomes a little bit of a question mark because Monday is MLK Day in the United States, and they are technically not allowed to close the road on that day or the weekend that surrounds that day. So technically they aren't really allowed to close it on Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. So should something happen where weather-wise or whatever, like say they can't go the next 2 days, it would most likely get pushed to Tuesday, but then again, it's SpaceX, and I mean, who knows? I kind of at this point, but they have everything for at least the next 2 days.
And on your screen there, you can read that for what's going to be happening in the future. And again, we'll stay with you here a little bit longer. Then we'll be here to cover it. Starbase Live will be there. We have other rocket launches, and you can go to NSF channel and see everything that's on there that's coming up. During our launch stream, we're going to have, we'll have Ryan Caton, we'll have Adam talking about the weather, we'll be tracking planes and all kinds of fun stuff. So be sure to join us for that when that happens. And again, more than likely, they shift to tomorrow. We'll have a stakeout for you tomorrow morning. You'll hear all the folks from NSF talking about this rocket as we did today. We were out there the other day setting up all the cameras, which was a lot of fun. From a host perspective, we rarely get out there and walk around. Now, I speak for me. Jack does it all the time. But it was really interesting, and to see the work that goes in behind the scenes, all of the folks from the SBL team out there doing their work. I was like amazed. I was carrying batteries and doing all this stuff, and the work that goes hours and hours and hours. And Doss was out there till, I don't know, goodness knows when, but we were leaving at like 9. He's like, I gotta go over here and do this. It's just amazing how much work, because that's who he is, and everybody on the team kind of does that. Like that's what it takes to get this done, this coverage and the slides and just everything that we bring you. And we do it for you guys. We do it for ourselves, really, because we're just a bunch of space nerds, right? Like Ryan and I could probably talk hours and hours and hours about Starship, and like Alex, like Adrian is right there with us. Last night during the Starlink, just I was listening in and just kind of laughing along, because we're just a bunch of friends doing this. And it's just so much fun to bring you all of this coverage, and we appreciate that you appreciate it. Like Morgan, $5 super chat. Thank you guys. Should we give away a trip on Starship? Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun with the team. I'm in. Morgan, let's go. Me, you, and Jack. Me, you, and EJ. I know Adrian's a no. Ryan, you're a no too, right?
No.
Oh, Adrian's a yes. Adrian, you're a yes?
Nope. I'm very much fine covering space from the ground.
I love it. I love the question.
I love how you sign me up for that. I'm like nope.
Wait, are we talking on Starship or just there in Texas to view it? Is that
no Starship? Let's ride it.
Okay, riding Starship now? No, not now. Later down the line, sure, not now. No, I'm good.
When Elon
I know what this
calls
vehicle's
us,
built like. I'm not doing it right now.
When Elon calls us, the answer is yes. I'm just saying. Morgan, I'm right there with you. Matthias, thank you so much for becoming a Pad Rap member. Josh, generous super chat. Thank you. No, that's not ice buildup. That is rain. What you're seeing on the camera is precipitation. We're not low enough to have that. Adam will be the one to tell you. I guess if it's cold enough in the clouds, we might have it. But yeah, you can see that that's rain. And, Kevin says he's going with us. Let's all go. You know how you have like a group cruise? Forget that. We're going on a group Starship launch. And we were talking about, EJ and I had an interesting conversation. Adrian and Ryan, you might be able to join this conversation with us. We were talking about potentially this becoming, because this is, here at Starbase, this is the gateway to Mars, but it's also the gateway to you and me riding this thing to orbit, or 1 orbit, 2 orbits, whatever, because the mass to orbit the cost is coming down. So I can afford to go and do 1 orbit and land. I'm not saying ride it to Mars, Ryan. I'm saying they put, 100. Oh, you can see the chopsticks closing around the Starship.
Yeah, that's
going to interrupt you, Gene. That's the first time they're closing in like a day and a half on that ship. So.
And that's not something you would do when you launch today.
Nope.
Yeah, they have to be open for the launch configuration. We were talking about that earlier with the winds, but then everybody on our team was like, yeah, they got to hold it. The winds are a little high, and then they opened them up right when we were talking about it, which means I know for a fact somebody in launch control was listening to Raptor Side yesterday. So there you go. And are closing? Yeah, we'll see if they go down. Maybe see if they lower them. Who knows?
They're closing and going down. They'll probably put the pins into the ship. Just to hold the ship in place is what they usually do.
There you go.
We have what we expected. There is the confirmation by SpaceX. The 7th flight test of Starship is preparing to launch on Thursday, January 16. The 60-minute launch window will open the same time as today at 4 p.m. CT. So that is what we call an official scrub.
Yeah, scrub for today, but don't worry. We're looking forward to tomorrow, and we'll be here to bring it to you. Let me run through some of these thank yous. We get to them as we can. John, thank you so much. Go Flight 7, that store message. Sean probably pre-ordered the patch. Go out to shop.nasspaceflight.com. Check out the patch. I ordered mine. By the way, Adrian, was I the first New Glenn shirt? Just say yes. The answer is yes. Yes.
You were.
I'm a winner.
And there's the confirmation from SpaceX. It is weather.
Yep.
Yeah. We kind of knew it was coming. But we got to wait for the official confirmation. Arthur, thank you so much for that store message. Flight 7. Yep. You got the patch as well. Super chat, Adriano, thank you. Just in case, can Mechazilla catch the booster using the grid fins? Ooh, Ryan, that's a question for you. I don't think so, but I'm gonna let you answer that one.
If it utterly had to, as a last resort, it probably could. However, they would have zero control of that vehicle to place it anywhere. The grid fins will probably handle it. I don't know how well it would. I mean, they go through a lot of aerodynamic stresses, but it's kind of one of those things. It's like, maybe. But the problem is you have no control of the vehicle. You can't translate it back and forth. You can't turn it. You wouldn't be able to get the stabilizers into place. You'd run into a lot of problems. It'd be like last resort if if it all of a sudden missed.
Yeah, and then we're talking about fixing refurbishment. There would be damage to almost everything because it's not designed for that. And if you push to those limits outside of the design, things are going to start to stress and things are going to start to break. But yeah, I agree with you. It'll last second ditch save the vehicle maneuver potentially. Let's see. Timo, thanks so much, guys. Thank you for what you do. Thank all of you. Keep on pushing. See you soon. Yeah, it's going to be tomorrow. We're going to see everybody tomorrow. Keep watching Starbase Live. And again, don't forget, there's another launch of another rocket tonight. They've been trying to get that one off the ground. The coverage of that one's been really, really fun to listen to, fun to watch.
And the weather, to be fair, I will also add that the weather doesn't look too nice for New Glenn tonight. With the launch day probability of violating weather constraints currently sitting at 60%, thanks to the primary concern of a thick cloud or layer rule, and also additional risk criteria of the offshore landing weather being of moderate risk. So, yes, I'm excited, but
yeah. We're going to see a lot of stuff on this launch, and we'll talk about that just briefly. Ryan, when they launch this, and again, they're potentially they're scrubbed today. They're going to go to tomorrow, same time. So again, Stakeout tomorrow morning. Come on in. We'll be here talking about it, and then our launch coverage will start at 12 o'clock local time tomorrow for their 1 hour window, 4 p.m. Central Time. But we're going to see a lot of stuff during the coast phase, and I know we're going to be there to talk about it. We have the deployment of the Starlink simulators, the V3 simulator deployment. We have an on Raptor relight. But then we're going to go into belly flop. We're going to see some peak heating. We're going to keep going. A lot of questions. I'm going to toss this one to you. A lot of questions have come up about the recovery of the ship. Are they going to plan on towing it to Australia? There's a lot of talk about that. What have you heard? What do you think?
They might. As we saw with 31 when it tipped over, it was largely intact when it tipped over. They had some breakage around there, but it was largely intact. And this ship is far more. The ship has far more structural integrity than 31 does. It's much more built like a booster. So, like in the older unupgraded Block 1 ships, they didn't have any, stringers in the methane tank, and they had less stringers in the LOX tank. In this one, they've got more stringers in the LOX tank. They got more stringers in the aft section. They've got a much more robust nose cone, and they put stringers in the methane tank. This thing is a lot. It's much more has much more structural integrity than the older versions of ship. So, assuming it tips over, it might survive in one piece, and they might be able to tow it back to Australia. Getting it out of the water as one piece might be a little bit tricky, because you then have to weld hooks onto it to grab it and take it out of the water. But it's SpaceX. I bet they could figure something out. But that would be really, really cool if they did that, and we got shots of them lifting 33 out of the Pacific Ocean to place on a dock in Australia. That would be one of the coolest things ever. So I don't know. Yeah, they might.
Ship 33 dry dock. That would be really cool. Yeah. Again, today, if you just joined us, they have scrubbed today's launch of Flight 7. They're pushing 24 hours to tomorrow. We will be here tomorrow morning with a Stakeout stream, so put it on your calendar. Get ready. We got a lot of coverage coming your way tomorrow morning. And then, of course, tomorrow at 4 p.m. is their 1 hour launch window that opens 4 p.m. Central Time here in Starbase. Our launch coverage begins at noon, but I expect to see everybody at the Stakeout tomorrow morning. Again, today's scrub, you can just look at the screen and you'll know why. Obviously, it's for weather. And when we hear things, we will put them out for you as well. Guys, thank you so much for jumping in today to talk about Starship. Alex, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for joining us on the Stakeout.
Oh, you were hoping me.
Did I say Alex? I mean Adrian. Oh God.
Yeah. Hello.
Rookie mistake. Alex,
around, but yeah.
Alex, thank you, but I really meant Adrian. Thank you. Thank both of you.
Thank you for having me. And I will now. I'm already looking to my left because that is where my bed is. And try to get a few hours before New Glenn. Because that is also happening and deserves as much energy and as much attention as this one. And of course, another few hours later, we go live again with another Stakeout.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Check out that the New Glenn coverage tonight. There is the tweet. You can read it on your screen. Going tomorrow. I can't see it. It's tiny on my screen. But check out all of our socials on X. You can get more information there as well. Ryan, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I learn a lot every time we have a discussion. I like the fact that you're coming to the optimistic side. I heard the other day on a stream you were actually saying things I would say about the Starship program. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as always. And here's a fun one from the director of Starship Engineering here. Bummed about this one, but the weather was super squirrely this week. They thought yesterday was going to be a wind disaster, and it turned out to be not so bad. So we waited to be super sure about today before calling it off. Tomorrow looks good so far to be our day. So that's from the director of Starship Engineering at SpaceX. And yeah, so everyone's got their fingers crossed for tomorrow. I'll be here again tomorrow to talk to you guys. You know, didn't get a ton of time today, but yeah, it is what it is. You know, things scrubbed. Rather have a scrub than a rud, as always.
Yep.
It's always it's much better that way. So, but yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow. But for everyone, make sure you guys watch New Glenn, because New Glenn's just as fun.
Yep, and you can see what's going on Space Coast Live at NSF. But yeah, tune into that New Glenn launch. Everybody's going to go to bed and then get back up for that one. A lot of folks to thank in the backside, because they on the back behind the scenes do a lot of work. The camera shots, the pressing of the buttons, all the assets that you see on screen, those come from folks. Carson's been working with us this morning, operating the cameras. Thank you so much, Carson, and the one and only KMR, Kevin Michael Reed, pulling the strings. We're marionettes, and if somebody's pulling the strings, it's Kevin, helping out in the back channel, giving us information, finding out information. Never sleeps. The guy never sleeps. I don't know where he gets all the energy from, but if you could bottle it, I want some, Kevin. EJ and Alex were on the Stakeout early there this morning. Got to talk to them. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining. The entire Starbase Live operating team, guys, they were out there this morning in the weather you see on screen, putting the cameras, checking the cameras, cleaning lenses, doing all the stuff that I don't go out there and do, and I can't thank them enough. It's been a lot of fun. So, big news for today. We scrubbed this one. We're going to go to tomorrow, New Glenn tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back with live Stakeout coverage, so tune in tomorrow morning here on NSF. I've been Gene Rowley, and I appreciate all of you joining and watching this morning. And remember, guys, dream big and keep your eyes on the stars. We'll see you tomorrow morning on Tomorrow Morning Stakeout. Cheers.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! They go down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.